Chapter 1499, Untitled. Chapter 1499, Untitled. Xian, he chuckled. The devil takes the hindmost. Blame yourself for being too slow. Give me back my roast fish. Feng Sun stomped his foot in frustration. Xian had gone through all the trouble to get it, so of course he wouldn't give it back. Feng Sun jumped at him in frustration, but Xian knew Feng Sun too well to let him get what he wanted. Before Feng Sun could get to him, Xian was already running away. Xian the second, stop right there. Feng Sun stomped his foot and ran after him as fast as he could. Of course, Xian wasn't going to stop. Holding the fish, he dashed off, while Feng Sun chased after him at top speed. There was only so much space in the campsite, and they weren't exactly trying to keep their voices down, so they disturbed the others. Right now, a lot of eyes were on them. Most of the men were staying outside, while the women were in the tents. But if one looked closely, they could see that the door curtains had been lifted slightly. The Zhua family, Mrs. Zhua and Mrs. Dugu, were still together. They were already sister-in-laws, and with their common enemy, the two of them were especially close at the moment. They were still talking about how to deal with Feng Wu when they smelled the incredible aroma. Before they knew it, they heard the hubbub outside. What's that about? Mrs. Zhua asked curiously. Mrs. Zhua's chamber maid was called Yufurong, and she had a mild temper and smiled all the time. She said merrily, I'll go have a look. She soon came back with a strange look on her face. The two ladies darted curious looks at her, and Mrs. Zhua frowned. What's that about? Yufurong stopped smiling and said quietly, It's young Lord Feng and young Lord Xian. Xian, and Feng Sun? They usually behave themselves. Why are they making all that noise now? What's going on? Both ladies had their eyes on Xian, and Feng Sun. As a matter of fact, they weren't the only ones. All families in the Imperial capital with teenage daughters had their eyes on the two young lords, because they were the most ideal future husbands, second only to Jun Lin Yuan. Feng Sun and Xian were both promising enough to win the hearts of the mothers. Xian and Feng Sun? What happened? Are they having a row with someone? Mrs. Zhua asked with a frown. Zhua Qingwan wasn't her only daughter. There was also Zhua Qingyu. Mrs. Dugu also had 3 daughters. Yufurong smiled wryly. Young Lord Xian and Feng are fighting each other. What? Aren't they good friends? They're like brothers. Why would they break into a fight? Just then, they heard someone shouting outside. Xian, stop right there. Do it. I'm going to kill you. Feng Sun sounded as if he had lost his mind. Xian, he was being very naughty. He stuffed a fish into his mouth as he ran. Feng Sun couldn't see it from behind, but when they reached a corner, he saw everything. Hey, Xian, how dare you eat it without my permission? Put that fish down right now. Feng Sun had only tried such good roast fish once in his life, but someone else had stolen it before he could have another bite. Xian, he looked over his shoulder with a resigned expression. Is that all you can do? Shout at me? Chapter 1500, Untitled. Chapter 1500, Untitled. Feng Sun asked, what else? Give me a hint. Xian, he didn't have time for that. He took a large bite of the fish, chewed, and did it all over again. The others were all astonished when they saw the way the two of them ran around. The ladies were utterly surprised when Yufurong told them about it. What? Young Lord Feng and young Lord Xian are fighting over a roast fish? Mrs. Zhua couldn't believe her ears. But Yufurong nodded with a bitter smile. That's right. Everyone heard it. Young Lord Feng is already running very fast, but he can't catch up with young Lord Xian. Mrs. Zhua looked shocked. What's going on? It's as if the young lord has never tasted roast fish before. But it does smell nice, and even my mouth is watering. Mrs. Dugu told the old maid next to her, Go find out who made that fish and have them cook one for me. Quickly. Granny Yu was about to go when Yufurong stopped her. She smiled wryly. Granny Yi, please don't go. You won't be able to get it. What now? Mrs. Dugu was bewildered. As the family of Empress Dugu, the Dugu family was one of the most influential families in the empire that everyone thought highly of. Why would anyone say no to such a family? Mrs. Dugu smirked. But that fish was cooked by Miss Feng Wu herself. Yufurong smiled bitterly. Miss Feng Wu. A hush fell over the crowd as soon as she said that name. She's just all over the place. Mrs. Dugas snorted. She didn't try to hide her disdain. Mrs. Wu sounded discontent as well and said sarcastically, "What's going on with the Feng clan? Why is that girl so good at seducing men?" It was obvious that the two ladies were jealous because they had daughters as well, and they could never get along well with Feng Sun and Xin Yi. While the two ladies were secretly tormented by their jealousy, the Empress Dowager, because she had insisted on going to the senile grassland, the Empress Dowager had to be on a strict diet imposed by Feng Wu. The instructions were quite simple. The food had to be low in oil, salt, and sugar, and the Empress Dowager was already getting sick of it. If she knew that Feng Wu had come up with that regime, she would probably hate her even more. She was lying in bed and whining about her pain when she smelled the aroma of food from outside. It was such a unique smell that she didn't think she had ever smelled it before. One could only imagine how someone who was about to pass out from starvation would feel when they smelled the spicy aroma. The old lady swallowed with difficulty. She was about to ask Granny Lon about it when she heard footsteps outside. "Your Majesty, Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Zhua are here to see you. Do you feel well enough to see them?" Granny Lon asked. Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Zhua? Had they come with the food that was giving off that nice aroma? The Empress Dowager was elated by that thought. She sprang up from the bed and cried out, "Quickly, invite them in." How thoughtful of them. The Empress Dowager thought to herself. Invite them in? Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Zhua exchanged surprised looks. Chapter 1501, Untitled. Chapter 1501, Untitled. The Empress Dowager wasn't exactly nice toward them. To be more precise, the Empress Dowager was quite nonchalant toward everyone except for Junlin Yuan. "Your Majesty," Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Wen knelt down to pay their respects. The Empress Dowager was excited at first, but her face darkened when she saw that they had come here empty-handed. The two ladies could sense the change in her mood, but they had no idea what was going on. "What are you here for?" The Empress Dowager stared at them. Mrs. Dugu smiled and said, "Your Majesty, we just thought we should visit you. Are you feeling better?" The Empress Dowager snorted. "How much better can I get? What's there to see?" Mrs. Dugu looked rather embarrassed when she heard that. Just then, Granny Lon came in with a food tray. The Empress Dowager looked even more displeased when she saw it, and her face was very dark now. Seeing the way the old lady frowned like a child, Granny Lon smiled wryly. "Your Majesty, I've brought you your meal." She then opened the food boxes and set the table. The boxes contained all kinds of boiled vegetables and fruit with no added sugar, salt, or oil. It was rather unappetizing. The Empress Dowager already had to put up with the diet for half a month and had reached her limit. "Take it away. I'm not eating it. Never." The Empress Dowager threw a tantrum like a child. Granny Lon smiled bitterly. "Your Majesty, you said it yourself. This diet is doing great things for your recovery. Plus, your diet can go back to normal in a few days. Please bear with it for a bit longer." The Empress Dowager glared at Granny Lon and pushed the tray away. She then said angrily, "I've been eating it for over 2 weeks. That's how long it's been. One more bite, and I'll throw up. Take them away. I'd rather starve to death." Granny Lon smiled wryly. The Empress Dowager hadn't been able to move around a few days ago, so she didn't have much appetite and didn't eat much. However, as she got better and her taste buds started working again, it was getting harder and harder to get her to eat. "But, take them away. Right now." "But, did you not hear me?" With her unfulfilled appetite, the Empress Dowager was very grumpy. The two ladies exchanged looks, and Mrs. Zhua was the first to figure it out. She then came up with a plan. She frowned at Granny Lon and said, "Granny Lon, is that what you've been feeding Her Majesty? How dare you?" Feeling wronged, Granny Lon looked at Mrs. Zhua in resignation. "My lady, here's the thing. Her Majesty fell sick earlier, and this diet was set by the physician. It'll help Her Majesty with her recovery." Mrs. Zhua rolled up her sleeves. "Really? By a physician? Which one?" I like to ask them why they would abuse Her Majesty like this. Hearing that someone was on her side, the old lady immediately regarded Mrs. Zwa as her new best friend. Taking Mrs. Zwa's hand, she turned around and glared at Granny Lawn. That's right. Which physician gave you that instruction? Bring him here. I'd like to know why he's abusing me like this, and if he has a death wish. Granny Lawn felt so awkward. Chapter 1502 was her. Chapter 1502 was her. Because the Empress Dowager didn't like Feng Wu, no one had told her that Feng Wu was her savior to begin with, and that this diet was her design as well. Was it Master Chu? I ran into him on my way here, but he didn't say anything about the diet. Mrs. Zwa was smirking inwardly. She knew what everyone was trying to hide and what the Empress Dowager hated. If the news had to come out eventually, why not now? Granny Lawn said, well, she darted a warning glance at Mrs. Zwa, hoping that she wouldn't create more trouble. However, Mrs. Zwa had made up her mind, and Granny Lawn just wasn't important enough to stop her. The Empress Dowager frowned. Didn't Master Chu prescribe this diet? Granny Lawn said, well, seeing the way Granny Lawn stammered, the Empress Dowager immediately saw what was going on. She grabbed Granny Lawn and stared at her with cold, sharp eyes. She said, Granny Lawn, you've worked in the palace all your life. You grew up with me, entered the palace with me, and you were there the entire time until I became who I am. But now, you're keeping things from me? Speak. What's this about? Once the Empress Dowager saw what was going on, it wasn't that easy to fool her anymore. Seeing that things were getting out of hand, Granny Lawn shot warning glances at the young maids outside so that they could inform Emperor Wu. However, the two ladies had also come with maids, and they were doing everything they could stop the young maids. Hence, do you want me to kill you with my own hands? The Empress Dowager stared at Granny Lawn with eyes that could spit fire. After eating food without salt, sugar, or oil for over 2 weeks, the Empress Dowager was on the verge of breaking down. Sighing inwardly, Granny Lawn said sorry to Feng Wu in her head, and, Your Majesty, please don't get excited. Can you sit down and hear me out? Having served the Empress Dowager for so many years, Granny Lawn was able to calm the Empress Dowager down with a few sentences and made her sit down. Tell me now. The Empress Dowager glowered. Granny Lawn crouched down in front of the Empress Dowager, held her hands, and looked into her eyes. She said, Your Majesty, we didn't mean to keep it from you, but because of your condition earlier, we decided to keep you in the dark for the time being, but we didn't mean to. Your health is always our priority. The Empress Dowager wasn't as angry when she heard that. She snorted with a stern look on her face. Speak. Granny Lawn smiled bitterly. Your condition was so severe 2 weeks ago that your life was hanging in the balance, but Master Chu, he had no confidence in curing your Majesty at all. What? The Empress Dowager stared at Granny Lawn. It wasn't Master Chu who saved me. Granny Lawn kept her gaze on the Empress Dowager and nodded solemnly. Wasn't him? That's impossible. The Empress Dowager was dumbfounded. Master Chu is the most capable Imperial physician in the convoy this time. If he couldn't help me, who did it in the end? All of a sudden, an idea struck her, and the idea astonished her. She looked like she had been struck by lightning. It was her. Chapter 1503, Untitled. Chapter 1503, Untitled. The Empress Dowager was completely dumbfounded. Taking the Empress Dowager's hands, Granny Lawn looked solemnly into her eyes. Your Majesty, we all know that you don't like her, nor would you accept her treatment, but it was very urgent. How dare you? How? The Empress Dowager threw Granny Lawn's hands off and glared at her. You people know perfectly well how much I dislike her, but you still did it. Damn you all. She was so infuriated that she saw stars. She stumbled and almost fainted. Your Majesty, everyone cried out in astonishment. Granny Lawn caught the old lady in time. Go get the doctor. Now, she said hastily. Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Zwa exchanged awkward looks. Only then did they start feeling scared. If something really happened to the Empress Dowager, His Majesty would definitely punish them for it. Master Chu's tent was only a short distance away, so he arrived in no time. He frowned after examining the Empress Dowager and said, "Her Majesty was just too angry," hence the episode. Luckily, we still have the dragon with fiber powder from Miss Feng Wu. Otherwise, I can't imagine what could have happened. After that, Master Chu took a bottle out of his sleeve, unplugged it, and gave Granny Lon instructions. Fill a small bowl with some warm water, melt a spoon of the powder in it, and feed it to Her Majesty. Granny Lon hesitated. Master Chu prompted her, "Do it now. Otherwise, Her Majesty's health may be damaged." Granny Lon took a deep breath, glanced at the two ladies, and remained silent. The two ladies suddenly had a bad feeling, and Mrs. Zhua was acutely aware of it, so she suggested that they leave. Hasty footsteps came from outside, and Emperor Wu rushed into the room at that moment. "How's Her Majesty doing?" Emperor Wu looked concerned. Master Chu then told Emperor Wu the diagnosis. It was because of anger. Emperor Wu's darkened even more. How did that happen? Why was Her Majesty angry? Who did that to her? Granny Lon stared at Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Zhua. Mrs. Zhua's survival instinct kicked in, and she immediately realized that Granny Lon was going to tell the truth, so she spoke first. "Your Majesty, Her Majesty was mad at Miss Feng Wu because she learned that Feng Wu was her doctor. It was nicely done, and Emperor Wu was immediately angry at Feng Wu. Get Feng Wu here, Your Majesty." Just then, Granny Lon calmly interjected. She bowed at Emperor Wu and spoke in an unperturbed tone. Her Majesty didn't know at first. The two ladies glared at Granny Lon. "How dare you?" However, they had underestimated Granny Lan's aplomb and courage. Keeping her gaze on Emperor Wu, Granny Lon said, "Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Zhuo worked together to reveal the truth to Her Majesty, which was why Her Majesty fainted in an infuriated state." Emperor Wu stared at Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Zhuo with cold, murderous eyes. He looked like he was ready to kill someone, because he had made it very clear that no one was to reveal the truth to the Empress Dowager. But these two people, "Your Majesty, please forgive us." Frightened, Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Zhuo dropped to their knees and trembled from head to toe. Chapter 1504, Untitled. Chapter 1504, Untitled. How dare the two of you? Emperor Wu was furious. This is unacceptable. Your Majesty, please forgive us. Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Zhuo pounded their foreheads on the floor. After what you did, do you actually expect me to forgive you? In your dreams. Emperor Wu had been very frustrated to begin with, and he just vented all at once. Take them out and flog them 20 times each. Emperor Wu gave the order. What? Everyone was dumbfounded. So were Mrs. Zhuo and Mrs. Dugu. They couldn't believe their ears. The emperor usually only punished his officials, and the punishment hardly ever extended to their family members, let alone was anything as humiliating as flogging. Because those who were flogged would have their pants removed so that their lower torsos were naked. No. Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Zhuo went pale in fright and almost fainted. If they really were flogged, they would lose their dignity for good. No, please don't. Your Majesty, please forgive us. Please. Mrs. Zhuo wrapped her arms around Emperor Wu's thigh and whimpered. Your Majesty, please forgive us. Please. We'll never do it again. It was all our fault. That punishment was simply unimaginable. Empress Dugu had arrived, and her face was very dark as well. Mrs. Dugu was her sister-in-law, and Mrs. Zhuo was her sister. If these two women were flogged, Empress Dugu would be humiliated as well. Your Majesty, please don't be mad. Empress Dugu pleaded for the two women. She reasoned with him, laid out all the facts, and tried to persuade him as tears ran down her cheeks. Your Majesty, please don't flog them. Even if Your Majesty has to flog someone, it shouldn't be them. Please consider their dignity. Emperor Wu calmed down slightly, but it wasn't enough to appease him. He said, they can't be flogged? Great. Get Zhuo Ming and Dugu Wanhua here and flog them 50 times each. Now. What? Everyone was dumbfounded. What? Why? Your Majesty, please don't. Mrs. Zwa felt desperate. If Zwaming knew that she was the reason he was going to be flogged, he would hate her. Mrs. Dugu thought the same. However, Emperor Wu had made up his mind, and he wasn't going to cut them loose. Poor Master Zwa and Master Dugu. Right now, they were standing there with hands behind their backs as they watched Feng Wu banter with Feng Sun and Xianyi. Masters was said in a contemptuous tone, "This Feng Wu is such a superficial and restless girl. No wonder Brother Feng doesn't like her. She's such a troublemaker." Master Dugu nodded. "That's right. A daughter like that is bound to bring trouble to a family." Masters was said, "One should always marry a woman for her virtue, such as our wives, with a good wife for the next 3 generations." However, an army marched toward them before he could finish. It was led by the chief steward. "Sir, where are you heading?" The chief steward was quite a respected figure, and even someone like Zwaming would treat him appropriately. However, the chief steward had a very stern look on his face, which was very rare, because he always had a smile. Behind him, the army looked very aggressive. "Are those His Majesty's Imperial Guards? What's going on? Is there an assassin?" Master Dugu was perplexed. Chapter 1505, Untitled. Chapter 1505, Untitled. The chief steward smiled slightly. "No, there's no assassin. But my lords, the 2 of you are in trouble." Seeing the aggressive looks in the guard's eyes, Masters felt his stomach turn. "What do you mean?" Masters' voice trembled. The chief steward took out his token of authority and gave a wave of his hand. "Take them down." "Huh." Master Zwa and Master Dugu were both dumbfounded. The Imperial Guards only took orders from the people who held Emperor Wu's token and ignored everyone else. Immediately, 4 stalwart men stepped out of the team and charged at the 2 masters. "Sir, what's this about?" Zwaming glared at the chief steward. It was quite a scene. After all, Master Zwa and Master Dugu were getting arrested. With their official status, it was quite a terrifying thing to witness. Hence, all eyes turned their way. Even Feng Wu and Feng Sun, who had been messing around, looked this way with smiles on their faces. The chief steward raised his token and said, "Fetch a bench, pin them down on it, and flog them 50 times each." OMG, the others were still hoping that the chief steward was only joking. But what was happening was so real that they didn't know how to react. Zwaming yelled, "This has to be a mistake. Sir, please let me explain." However, the chief steward looked very stern and was as grave as a judge. "Flog them. Now." Now that he had finally gotten the chance, of course the chief steward would make sure that they paid the price. The guards all had aggressive and murderous looks in their eyes, and they were incredibly strong. No matter how Master Zwa and Master Dugu struggled, they were pinned down like helpless chickens. "Flog them now. This is His Majesty's order." The chief steward brought up the emperor. Master Dugu and Master Zwa felt like crying. They had no idea what this was about. The others all watched in astonishment. 2 high-ranking officials were being flogged in front of everyone, which was so humiliating. What a disgrace. Mrs. Zwa and Mrs. Dugu had been released, and they almost broke down when they saw their husbands getting punished from a short distance away. "Sister-in-law, what are we going to do now?" Mrs. Zwa was almost in tears. Mrs. Dugu was equally distressed. If their husbands knew that they had to go through this all because their wives had said too much, it would be a disaster. Their husbands would probably hate them forever. "Sister, don't say a word. We're going to take this secret to the grave without telling another soul. Remember?" Mrs. Dugu stared at Mrs. Zwa. Mrs. Zwa nodded as she cried. They couldn't bring themselves to watch anymore because they were worried that their guilt would give them away if they stayed any longer. "Why? Even if you have to kill me, we still deserve an answer. Sir, why is this happening? What did we do?" The chief steward smirked. "You didn't do anything wrong except marry the wrong women. Ask them when you get back home." After the flogging, both Master Dugu and Master Zwa were too weak to even stand up, so the chief steward had someone carry them back. "Go back to whatever you were doing. The crowd scattered, but the gossip wouldn't go away that easily. Chapter 1506, Untitled. Chapter 1506, Untitled. Everyone was intrigued by the chief steward's words. They had married the wrong women. So was it Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. was fault? While the men were being flogged, Feng Wu was still roasting fish. She listened to what was going on as she unhurriedly roasted the fish, as if it was nothing out of the ordinary. Feng Sun said, "Hey, little Feng Wu, Master Zhua and Master Dugu are getting flogged. Aren't you a little bit curious?" Feng Wu asked about what. Feng Sun said, "Don't you want to know why they're being punished?" Feng Wu nodded. Feng Sun grinned, flashing his perfectly white teeth. "Little Feng Wu, you do want to know, don't you?" Feng Wu didn't say a word. Crossing his hands behind his back and raising his chin, Feng Sun gloated. "Beg me now. I'll go ask around for you. I'm very good at gathering information, and I can always get the information I want." Feng Wu said, "I know." Feng Sun stared at her. "What do you know?" Feng Wu gave him a "you idiot" look. "I know why Master Zhua and Master Dugu are being punished." "You know? How? What do you know?" Feng Sun asked. Feng Wu said in resignation, "How can I not know? Didn't the chief steward tell us already? He said that they were suffering because of their wives." Feng Sun said, "Yes, the chief steward did say that, but that was all. He didn't say anything else." Feng Wu said, "Are you an idiot? The chief steward might have only said that, but the meaning behind it is very obvious. All you need is some simple deduction." Feng Sun asked, "What do you think then?" Feng Wu said, "It's simple. Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Zhua upset Her Majesty to the point that she passed out from her rage. His Majesty was so furious that he wanted to flog Mrs. Zhua and Mrs. Dugu, but Empress Dugu begged for His Majesty's forgiveness, so the husbands got flogged instead." Feng Wu's reasoning was well-rounded and clear, which dumbfounded Feng Sun. "Ew, you got all that from the chief steward's one sentence." If that was true, Feng Wu had to be clairvoyant. Feng Wu chuckled. "You believe that?" Feng Sun said, "Huh?" Feng Wu said, "Master Chu was worried that he would do something wrong and aggravate Her Majesty's condition when she fell ill, so he came to ask for my advice. Before he could do that, he had to tell me everything." She gave Feng Sun a gloating smile after she said that. Feng Sun was rendered speechless. He couldn't help but flick Feng Wu's forehead with a finger. "You naughty girl, you almost got me." Feng Wu laughed. "Poor Master Zhua and Master Dugu. If they find out what happened, they'll hate their wives." Feng Sun said, "That's for sure. His Majesty was so ruthless." "If I were His Majesty," Feng Wu smiled a little, "I would never let those two ladies go unpunished. They haven't paid the price yet. Do you have a plan?" Feng Sun was very interested in punishing the two mean ladies. "If it were up to me, I would send the two men some beautiful women, gentle, talented young women, to be precise. The younger and prettier they are, the more damage they'll do." Chapter 1507, Untitled. Chapter 1507, Untitled. Feng Sun's eyes lit up, and he kept his gaze on Feng Wu. The girl was so clever. She was able to kill subtly without spilling any blood. If Master Zhua and Master Dugu realized that they had been stripped half-naked and flogged in front of everyone because of something their wives did, they would never be able to stand it. And just as they were feeling inferior and vulnerable, those gentle, pretty young maids would show up. "Little Feng Wu, you're so. Anyone who knows you well won't dare make an enemy of you. That's such a scary idea. You know what? Just be my friend." Feng Wu chuckled. Seeing the way Feng Wu laughed wholeheartedly, Feng Sun inwardly smiled bitterly. This girl, who could know how scary she was deep down? "Hey, where's Jun Lin Yuan?" Feng Wu asked curiously. She hadn't seen him since she started roasting fish. She hadn't thought much of it when he was there all the time, despite the fact that he was the only heir to the throne. However, she actually missed him when he wasn't there. What an odd idea, Feng Wu thought to herself. Feng Sun said, "Boss Jun is halfway up the hill. Right there. Look, there's Feng. He's guarding Boss Jun right now." Feng Wu narrowed her eyes and told Feng Sun, "Go fetch him." Feng Sun immediately shook his head. No, I won't. Boss Jun is very fussy. If I interrupt his cultivation, he'll kill me. Feng Wu said, Don't worry. I'm here. Just go. Feng Sun waved his hands repeatedly. No, I can't. I just can't do it. Feng Wu rolled her eyes grumpily. If you're not going, I will, all right. Feng Sun stopped her. Forget it. You shouldn't go either. Although Boss Jun seems to treat you kindly enough, you can't be as important as his cultivation. He'll kick you away. Feng Wu had made up her mind. Don't worry. I'll bring Jun Linyuan here. She walked off after that. Behind her, Feng Sun and Xian exchanged looks and saw resigned smiles on each other's faces. Feng Wu was too young and too naive. Where did she get the idea that she could bring Boss Jun here? She was dreaming. By then, Feng Wu had already reached Jun Linyuan. He was meditating with his eyes closed and ignoring the rest of the world. Feng stood next to him, holding a sword and looking like a god. He was there to watch over Jun Linyuan to make sure that he grew stronger. When Feng saw Feng Wu, he shot her a warning glance to walk away as soon as possible. However, Feng Wu had made the declaration already, and she found it too embarrassing to back away now. Jun Linyuan, standing in front of Jun Linyuan, she put her hands behind her back and smiled at him. Feng paled. Jun Linyuan took his cultivation very seriously, and he could be relentless at times. Feng Wu would face severe consequences after disturbing him like this. Involuntarily, Feng wanted to shield Feng Wu with his own body. To his surprise, Jun Linyuan's bright eyes snapped open. Chapter 1508, Outsider 1. Chapter 1508, Outsider 1. Feng was about to shield Feng Wu behind him when Jun Linyuan rose to his feet. His eyes were mesmerizing. They were exceptionally bright when set off against his well-defined features. Feng Wu backed away involuntarily when she saw those cold eyes. Well, please don't let me keep you from your cultivation. I'm off. She then turned to flee. But Jun Linyuan grabbed her hand before she could walk away. The look in his eyes was so terrifying that she felt a chill run down her spine. She regretted her decision now. Had she known better, she wouldn't have tried to mess with the big boss here. You're here already. You're not going anywhere. With a slight pull from the crown prince, Feng Wu fell into his arms. She asked, what are you doing? The crown prince raised his straight dark eyebrows. What do you think I'm going to do? Feng Wu said, whatever you're thinking, you're not doing it. Let me go. Jun Linyuan started walking, dragging Feng Wu along with him. Hey, Jun Linyuan, what are you doing? Let go of me. Feng Wu cried out. There were a lot of people nearby, and Feng Wu's yelling immediately caught their attention. Seeing that everyone was turning in their direction, Feng Wu lowered her voice and said, Jun Linyuan, what are you doing? Jun Linyuan raised his well-defined chin and shot an arrogant glance at Feng Wu. What do you think I'm doing? Feng Wu said, You. Jun Linyuan found her reaction idiotic. Why did you come here? Feng Wu said, I roasted some moonfish and thought maybe you'd like to try some. Jun Linyuan asked, Did you roast it yourself? Feng Wu said proudly, Of course I did. Jun Linyuan said, Let's go then. Feng Wu glanced at him. I thought Feng Sun said he didn't like fish. She had come here to tease him because Feng Sun said Jun Linyuan didn't like fish. But that didn't seem to be the case. The crown prince gave her a you idiot look. That's right. I don't like it. Don't go then. You don't have to force yourself. We'll stay right here. Feng Wu tugged at Jun Linyuan's hand as she spoke. Jun Linyuan rubbed Feng Wu's head with his free hand. Don't do that. You're messing up my hair. Feng Wu stomped her foot in frustration. The crown prince grinned. You're so dumb. Feng Wu said, Jun Linyuan, call me dumb again. I dare you. Jun Linyuan put both hands behind his back and walked at an unhurried pace while holding Feng Wu's hand his right one. They looked like a loving young couple. Feng would try to throw his hand off as they walked, but his grip was so tight that nothing she did could shake it. Next to the grill, Feng Wu had roasted 5 moon fish before she left, but when she came back, she saw that Feng Sun and Xian you were crouching in front of the grill and staring at the roast fish that was turning on it. The 5 cooked ones were already gone. She asked, "Where are the 5 roast fish?" Feng Sun raised his head and looked at her with his teary big eyes. "We finished them," Feng Wu asked seriously. Feng Sun said seriously. Feng Wu said, "You pig, those fish are all half a meter long, and they weigh dozens of kilos even after they're cleaned up. How could you eat them all?" Chapter 1509, Outsider 2. Chapter 1509, Outsider 2. Feng Sun nodded eagerly. "Yes." Feng Wu rested her hands on her waist and looked up at the sky in resignation. What was she supposed to say? "They're just so delicious. I was so tempted, and I couldn't stop eating. Before I knew it, I ate them all. And what's amazing is that you can never get too full with this fish. No matter how many I eat, I can always eat more. My stomach has turned into a bottomless pit." Feng Wu said, "You certainly have your argument all prepared." Feng Sun looked at her eagerly and ran happily to her side. Xiao Wu, we prepared the fish. Can you cook one more for us?" Feng Wu rolled her eyes. "One more? That's it?" Feng Sun shook his head repeatedly. "No, of course not. 50 more at least." "You wish." Feng Wu smacked him on the head. "There are 5 here, and that's all I'm going to cook for you." Feng Sun pouted and gave Feng Wu a pleading look. 3 then," Feng Wu said grumpily. Feng Sun said, No, 5's fine. 5 it is then." Feng Wu glanced at the fish on the grill and said, "These 2 are almost cooked. Eat them first." Feng Sun and Xian Yi exchanged looks, but neither of them moved. Feng Wu said, "I thought you liked this fish. Why won't you eat them?" Feng Sun frowned and looked very reluctant, but he still removed the 2 fish from the grill in the end. Feng Wu stared at him. Feng Sun tore a piece of flesh off the fish and glanced at Feng Wu. She still stared at him in silence. Feng Sun had no choice but to put the fish in his mouth. But the next second, Feng Sun spat it out right away. "Gosh, that's terrible. How can it taste so bad? Why is it bitter?" Feng Sun stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. Feng Wu shrugged. She didn't have an answer either. "How can this happen? I copied everything you did in roasting them and used the same condiments, but why do they taste so different?" Feng Sun was utterly confused. He had thought that his roast fish should at least be half as good as Feng Wu's. But now, forget half. It wasn't even 1/10, no, 1/100th as good as hers. That was unbelievable. "Xiao Wu, how did you do it? Why is our fish so different?" Feng Sun stared at Feng Wu in utter disbelief. Feng Wu shrugged. "I don't really have a recipe at all. You know what? You shouldn't waste it. Finish the fish." Feng Sun said, "I'm not eating it." Xianyi said, "Neither am I." Just then, Feng Sun's eyes flickered because he saw someone coming their way. And there was another pretty girl behind that person. The 3rd and 5th princesses. Feng Sun's and Xianyi's faces darkened a little. Jun Wuxiao was known for her arrogance, and her sister was notoriously timid. The 2 teenagers liked neither of them. "Brother Feng Sun, there you are." Jun Wuxiao walked up to Feng Sun with her sister and smiled at him. It was common knowledge that Jun Wuxiao was in love with Feng Sun because she had raised quite a fuss trying to catch his attention. But what did Feng Sun think of her? In Feng Sun's own words, he would rather step on shit. Therefore, he wanted to slip away as soon as he saw Jun Wuxiao. Chapter 1510, Outsider 3. Chapter 1510, Outsider 3. But Jun Wuxia seemed to have anticipated that Feng Sun would try to run, so she held her ground and blocked his way. "Brother Feng Sun, aren't you happy to see me? Are you leaving already?" Jun Wuxia stood in front of Feng Sun and looked at him with teary eyes. After all, she was a princess, and her parents were just around the corner, so Feng Sun couldn't be too harsh on her. Hence, he had to smile awkwardly as he said, "My princess, you're mistaken. I'm just standing up to welcome you and your sister. To what do we owe this honor?" Jun Wuxia was glad to hear that, and she smiled, looking as pretty as a blossoming flower. "Feng Sun, do you like to see me that much?" How about I come and visit you tomorrow? Jun Wuxia stepped forward with her delicate chin raised, tugged at Feng Sun's wide sleeve, and looked at him eagerly. Feng Sun looked as if he had just swallowed a fly. Please don't. You really don't have to do that, my princess. His head was already aching. Feng Wu glanced at Feng Sun as she roasted the fish. It was quite a teasing look. Was that girl laughing at him? Feng Sun threw a dirty look at her. Feng Wu made a face at him. Yes, she was laughing at him, because he couldn't even handle Jun Wuxia. Feng Sun snarled at Feng Wu. Jun Wuxia was Empress Dugu's daughter, and that woman was the emperor's favorite, so he couldn't afford to offend the girl. He wasn't Boss Jun, who could strike anyone he didn't like with his sword and tell them to get lost. Seeing the way Feng Wu and Feng Sun interacted with each other, Jun Wuxia was furious. Her gaze shifted from Feng Sun to Feng Wu. Why? I was wondering who it was. Isn't it Miss Feng Wu? Crossing her arms, Jun Wuxia walked around Feng Wu and looked her up and down, as if she was examining her. She was sizing Feng Wu up. Other people would have been shaken by that searching look, but Feng Wu. She wasn't the least bit disturbed, and she looked perfectly calm as well. She didn't react to Jun Wuxia's gaze at all. Jun Wuxia narrowed her eyes. This Feng Wu was so annoying. She had made Jun Wuxia miserable in the World Tower last time, so when the princess saw Feng Wu again, she was filled with rage. Miss Feng Wu, what are you doing here? Are you roasting fish? Jun Wuxia stared at the grill with a displeased look on her face. Feng Wu didn't want to talk to her, so she only hummed. Jun Wuxia's face darkened a little. She had never been ignored like this before. Growing up, she was used to enjoying wealth and honor, not to mention that the empress was her mother, so no one had ever dared to offend her. However, this insignificant Feng Wu kept ignoring her. Damn her! Damn her! However, Jun Wuxia had to feign a magnanimous attitude, just to show Feng Sun that she was a kind, gentle princess. Feng Wu, I hear that you're an excellent cook, and everyone in the Crown Prince's residence can't stop singing your praises. Is that true? Jun Wuxia's eyes glinted. She tugged at her sister's hand, telling the latter that she should speak now. The shy fifth princess suddenly interjected. I heard that your fish-flavored shredded pork is amazing. Can I try it? Jun Wuxia glanced at her little attendant and seemed pleased. Chapter 15:11. One thing leads to another. 1. Chapter 15:11. One thing leads to another. 1. Jun Wuxia decided that she should keep calm and try to irritate Feng Wu instead. She believed that Feng Wu would be the loser if the latter lost her temper. Feng Wu glanced at the fifth princess and shook her head. I don't have the necessary ingredients here, and I won't be able to make that dish. Sorry to disappoint you. The princess nodded and looked crestfallen, but she didn't say anything else. Jun Wuxia threw a dirty look at her sister. The younger princess bit her lower lip and looked intimidated. Jun Wuxia wanted to smack her on the head. She was so useless. Since her sister wasn't of any help, Jun Wuxia had to step up herself. Miss Feng Wu, since you're such a great cook, why don't you come and work as my personal chef? Jun Wuxia stared at Feng Wu in a provoking manner. Feng Wu rolled her eyes inwardly and said indifferently, No, I don't think so. The rejection was so straightforward that Jun Wuxia's face darkened. She stared at Feng Wu with a ferocious look in her eyes. Feng Wu let her. The gaze didn't affect her at all, and she still worked on her fish in an unhurried manner. Jun Wuxia gritted her teeth. Feng Wu, is that how you treat a princess? She glared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu didn't reply. She didn't even speak to Jun Wuxia directly. Instead, she turned around and told Feng Sun, Feng the Third, if I'm in a bad mood, the fish I roast will be affected. That was a reminder and a threat. She was telling Feng Sun that he had to solve his own problem himself. Feng Sun immediately took the hint and started dragging Jun Wuxia away. The princess frowned. I'm not leaving. I won't. Feng Sun pulled the two princesses away by force. Feng Sun stared at Jun Wuxia a few dozen meters away. Didn't you see? Boss Jun's face was already livid. Especially you, Jun Wuxia. Are you trying to enrage Boss Jun? Have you considered the consequences? Jun Wuxia said. Feng Sun stuffed 2 roast fish in the 2 princess hands and said, "There you are. Take the fist away and share it with everyone else." He then turned around and left. "Hey, Feng Sun." Jun Wuxia held the fish and stomped her foot. Feng Sun didn't even look back when he waved goodbye. Jun Wuxia sulked. "Wow, is this little Feng Wu's roast fish? I heard that Her Majesty was ill from anger because of this fish. She'll be so happy when I give the fish to her." The 5th princess smiled happily and ran back happily. However, she only took a few steps before a strong force knocked into her from behind. Caught by surprise, she fell forward. Thump! She stumbled forward and fell face down on the ground. The ground in front of her didn't have any grass and was bare. The 5th princess's face was covered with dust from the fall. To make matters worse, "Oh no, my roast fish." The princess was almost in tears. The fish which Feng Sun had given to her had already fallen out of her arms. It rolled over the ground before falling into a pit 10 meters away. The fish was covered in dust as well. It was too dirty to be eaten. Jun Wuxia grinned maliciously. Her eyes glinted with satisfaction. Chapter 15:12. One thing leads to another too. Chapter 15:12. One thing leads to another too. Sister. The 5th princess pursed her lips and looked up at her sister in regret. Jun Wuxia appeased her in a sympathetic tone. "Honey, you're too old to take a fall like that. Watch where you're going. Does it hurt? Are you all right?" Her sister said pitifully, "Sister, I'm fine. But the fish, I was going to give it to Her Majesty, but now..." Jun Wuxia patted her on the head. "Honey, how sweet. You're still thinking of Her Majesty after taking a fall like that. I'll send Her Majesty your regards. Now, go get your wounds treated." The poor princess was sent away just like that. Jun Wuxia, on the other hand, went to see the Empress Dowager with the roast fish. Right now, the Empress Dowager had already woken up, but she looked very malnourished after only eating vegetables for so many days, and she felt so weak that she could barely open her eyes. "Your Majesty, Your Majesty." The Empress Dowager was whimpering in bed when she heard someone calling her. She looked over her shoulder and saw that it was Jun Wuxia. She had never liked this granddaughter and was rather impatient to see the girl. She closed her eyes and ignored Jun Wuxia. Jun Wuxia cursed her grandmother in her head, but she still smiled brightly. "Your Majesty, look what I brought you." Jun Wuxia showed the fish to the old lady. "Gosh, is that a roast moon fish?" The Empress Dowager's eyes lit up. Jun Wuxia nodded. "Yes, it is. I heard that it tastes amazing. Your Majesty, would you like to try it?" Recalling that it was Feng Wu who roasted the moon fish, the Empress Dowager immediately lost all interest. She waved weakly. "No, I don't want it. Take it away." Jun Wuxia was dumbfounded, because the rumor was that the Empress Dowager wanted to eat the fish. Had she been misinformed? "But Your Majesty, I roasted this fish myself. Won't you give it a go?" "You roasted it?" The Empress Dowager's face lit up. "You made it? Not that brat Feng Wu?" Hearing the change in her tone, Jun Wuxia immediately nodded. "That's right. I roasted it myself. Your Majesty, please try it. It smells really nice. Your Majesty." She swayed the Empress Dowager's arm back and forth as she pleaded with her. The Empress Dowager usually doted on Jun Linyuan alone and ignored everyone else, so Jun Wuxia had never dared to do this. However, she was lying there now and looked very weak, which made her seem much less aggressive, so Jun Wuxia took the chance. Despite her usual pride, the Empress Dowager didn't turn the girl down. She only glanced at Jun Wuxia and said, "All right." She swallowed as she spoke. It was just that the roast fish smelled so nice. More precisely, the aroma from earlier had made such an impression on the Empress Dowager that she now thought that roast fish was the most delicious food in the world. She swallowed so hard that even Jun Wuxia could see it. So the old hag is a foodie. Jun Wuxia thought to herself. Thinking that she had found the Empress Dowager's weakness, she was thrilled. At the same time, seeing Feng Sun return empty-handed, Feng Wu asked in bewilderment, "Hey, did you throw away both of your roast fish?" Chapter 15:13. One thing leads to another 3. Chapter 15:13. One thing leads to another 3. Feng Sun said, "Throw them away? Why would I do that? I gave them away." Feng Wu stared at him. "What did you say?" Feng Sun said, "I gave them to someone else." Feng Wu stared at Feng Sun as if she was looking at a crazy person. The look gave Feng Sun the creeps. Why are you looking at me like that?" Feng Wu gave him a "you idiot" look. Feng Sun asked, "Huh? Why? What did I do?" Feng Wu scratched her head. "Well," Feng Sun fidgeted. "Little Feng Wu, what's wrong? Say something. Please don't tell me that you tampered with the fish." Feng Wu cleared her throat. "Well, I don't think it's a big deal. I just sprinkled a little something on them, and it isn't lethal. By the way, who did you give them to?" Feng Sun said, "Jun Wuxia and her sister." Feng Wu said, "Well, that's all right then." Feng Sun stared at Feng Wu in resignation. "What on earth did you sprinkle on the fish?" Feng Wu cleared her throat. "Well, it's nothing. It was just a little tickling powder." Feng Sun stared at her. "Why would you do that?" Feng Wu cleared her throat again. "Well, I mistook it for paprika when I pulled it out of my pouch. Don't worry, it isn't a big deal. They may not eat the fish anyway." She had never liked Jun Wuxia, so she was elated by the prospect that the princess might suffer a little. However, no matter how smart Feng Wu was, she could never have expected that Jun Wuxia would give the fish to the Empress Dowager. Jun Wuxia tore the flesh off the fish, put it on an exquisite porcelain plate, and cut it into small pieces. They were glossy and looked very tempting. "Your Majesty, there you go." Jun Wuxia smiled and watched the Empress Dowager eagerly. She stared at Jun Wuxia. "Are you sure you roasted this yourself?" Jun Wuxia pursed her lips and nodded. Still staring at Jun Wuxia, the Empress Dowager asked, "Are you sure Feng Wu didn't roast this?" Jun Wuxia smiled and shook her head. "Your Majesty, she's not the only one who can roast fish." The Empress Dowager nodded and finally decided to eat. Granny Lan didn't look too pleased, and she kept her stern gaze on Jun Wuxia. "Your Majesty, Miss Feng Wu left instructions about your diet, but this fish—" "Shut up." The Empress Dowager glared at Granny Lan. "You can't tell me what to do. Go away." Granny Lan was speechless. Poor Granny Lan. Because of what happened earlier, she didn't dare push the Empress Dowager too hard now. She could only watch as the old lady ate one piece after another. She frowned as she ate. "Is this how roast fish is supposed to taste?" Jun Wuxia nodded with a smile. The Empress Dowager snorted. "It's not that impressive at all." Jun Wuxia paled a little. The Empress Dowager stared at her. "Or does it taste like this because it was roasted by you?" Jun Wuxia paled even more. The Empress Dowager put the dish aside after eating 3 pieces. "It's nothing special at all." Jun Wuxia bit her lower lip and looked unsettled. She couldn't understand it. Wasn't Feng Wu supposed to be an amazing cook who had impressed the crown prince so much? Why didn't the Empress Dowager like the fish? The rumor couldn't be any more wrong. Chapter 15:14. One thing leads to another 4. Chapter 15:14. One thing leads to another 4. "You can leave now." The Empress Dowager couldn't be bothered to tell Jun Wuxia off, and just waved to send her on her way. Jun Wuxia hesitated and wanted to say something, but she didn't say a word in the end. She left the room after giving the Empress Dowager a bow. The Empress Dowager had an odd feeling as soon as Jun Wuxia left, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. Granny Lan was keeping an eye on the Empress Dowager, and she panicked when she saw the old lady twisting and turning. "Your Majesty, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well?" The Empress Dowager scratched her throat. "It's quite itchy here." Granny Lan paled. "Your throat? Anywhere else?" The Empress Dowager rubbed her belly. "Here, too. It feels like 1,000 ants are crawling under my clothes. I feel awful." Granny Lan's face darkened. Arg! All of a sudden, The Empress Dowager cried out, "It's so itchy. My face is itchy. My body is itchy. And I feel itchy everywhere. Help me." The tickling powder was very effective. In a matter of minutes, the Empress Dowager was already whimpering in bed. Granny Lon was terrified, because that was a very severe reaction. She immediately summoned someone. "Go report to His Majesty, Master Chu, and Miss Feng Wu. Get Miss Feng Wu here." The Empress Dowager had a lot of servants, and they all dashed off in various directions. They seemed so panic-stricken that everyone outside panicked along with them. "What's wrong? What's wrong? So many people are coming out of Her Majesty's place. Is something wrong with Her Majesty again? Oh no, by the look of it, it has to be something severe." Because they all lived very close by, Emperor Wu soon heard about it. His head was resting comfortably in Empress Dugu's lap as she massaged his shoulder when he heard the news. He immediately sprang up from the bed. Something's wrong with Her Majesty again? Emperor Wu felt like screaming. What was wrong with his mother these days? Why was her life in danger all the time? "Have you summoned Master Chu?" Emperor Wu shouted as he put on his robe. "Your Majesty, someone has done so, but Master Chu did say before that he was going to go into the mountains to find some medicinal ingredients, so he may not be in the campsite right now." Emperor Wu flared up. "Go get Feng Wu then." "Yes, of course." Right now, Feng Wu was roasting some fish while chatting with Feng Sun. She was quite efficient. In a few seconds, she had roasted 2 fish already. Feng Sun and Xian Yi were about to fight for them when they felt a cold, suffocating gaze. They felt a chill run down their spines, and they turned their heads involuntarily. It was Boss Jun. There was no warmth in his eyes as he stared at the roast fish. Feng Sun and Xian Yi shuddered. Without thinking, they gave one of the fish to Jun Lin Yuan. Feng Sun nodded in an ingratiating manner. "Boss Jun, please, enjoy the fish." Not only did Feng Sun offer him the fish, he also placed it on a pretty porcelain plate along with some cutlery. He and Xian Yi had been eating the fish with their bare hands this whole time, which looked quite barbaric. Chapter 15:15, Untitled. Chapter 15:15, Untitled. The Crown Prince snorted and looked slightly more satisfied. Feng Sun and Xian Yi shared the other fish. Just then, Miss Feng Wu, help! Please help us." The one leading the team was Laxu, the most capable maid working under Granny Lon. Because Laxu had been the one to come and get Feng Wu each time, Feng Wu recognized the young maid. "What's wrong?" Feng Sun wolfed down his half of the fish and mumbled the question. "Her Majesty isn't feeling well and has fainted again," Laxu said hastily, sounding anxious. Feng Wu raised her head and looked surprised. "That's impossible." Feng Wu gave it some thought and said, "If Her Majesty's following the diet I stipulated, nothing should happen." Laxa dropped to her knees and begged Feng Wu in tears. "There's really something wrong with Her Majesty. Please help her. Please." Jun Lin Yuan had already risen to his feet. Feng Wu stood up in resignation and said, "All right, I'll go have a look." But she glanced at Jun Lin Yuan over her shoulder. "But if Her Majesty insists that I can't treat her, I'm not going to beg her." Jun Lin Yuan rubbed her head. Although he didn't seem to have paid any attention to what was going on, he actually knew everything and was aware of what Feng Wu had to put up with. "No problem." Jun Lin Yuan flicked Feng Wu's forehead with his long finger. They soon arrived at the Empress Dowager's tent. Although it was only a temporary tent, as the Empress Dowager's residence, it was still spacious, clean, and fully equipped with everything. The place was elegantly decorated, which lifted one's mood. Your Majesty, please wake up. Please, the doctor's here." Granny Lon shouted and shouted, but the Empress Dowager only grunted and couldn't form a coherent sentence. Her head had gone numb and her eyes were glassy. She was curled up in bed and trembling uncontrollably. White foam had gathered at the corners of her mouth. The Empress Dowager looked at Feng Wu with unfocused eyes when she walked up to her and could no longer recognize the girl. Feng Wu sat down by the bed and checked the Empress Dowager's pulse. Everyone, Emperor Wu included, looked at Feng Wu without batting an eyelash. They all tried to find some hint from the look on Feng Wu's face to figure out what the Empress Dowager's condition was. However, Feng Wu remained unperturbed and didn't let her face reveal anything. Even Emperor Wu, who was great at reading people, couldn't tell a thing, let alone the others. That was the amazing thing about Feng Wu. Feng Wu was a lot quicker at checking a pulse than other people. With one touch, she knew that the Empress Dowager had been poisoned by the tickling powder. She glanced around the room and immediately saw the half-eaten fish. Did Her Majesty eat this roast fish? Granny Lon nodded repeatedly. That's right. Her Royal Highness, the third princess, brought it here, but Her Majesty didn't eat much. Feng Wu looked at Feng Sun. Feng Sun looked embarrassed. Princess Jun Wuxia brought the fish here? Is it really? Feng Sun's stomach lurched, and he looked at Feng Wu. It's so itchy. So itchy. The Empress Dowager tossed and turned in bed and felt miserable. The Empress Dowager was already very weak, and the tickling powder only worsened her condition. Chapter 15:16, Untitled. Chapter 15:16, Untitled. Did Princess Jun Wuxia bring the fish? Feng Wu asked again. The Empress Dowager was only half conscious, so she replied to Feng Wu's question. She cooked it herself. It tasted awful. Feng Wu didn't say a word. Emperor Wu looked at Feng Wu. Was there something wrong with the fish? Feng Wu cleared her throat. Emperor Wu stared at her. Was it because of the roast fish? Feng Wu said, That's right. The roast fish wasn't very clean. That was an understatement. Feng Wu had actually been the one to put the tickling powder on the fish, but she never expected the fish to end up in the Empress Dowager's hands. It wasn't clean. How dare she do that, giving Her Majesty unclean food? Bring the princess here. Emperor Wu was obviously infuriated. Feng Wu and Feng Sun exchanged conflicted looks. Poor Jun Wuxia. She had no idea that she was in a lot of trouble. Right now, she was talking to Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Zhua. Feng Wu's roast fish? It tasted awful. She rolled her eyes. Mrs. Zhua said, Are you sure? Feng Sun and Xian Yi were fighting over it. How can it not taste good? Jun Wuxia said, I try it myself, and I can tell good food from bad, okay? Both Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Zhua gave her strange looks. Jun Wuxia flared up. Hey, what's with those looks? What kind of person do you think I am? Don't assume things. I'm telling you, even Her Majesty didn't like her roast fish. She put it down after just a few bites. Mrs. Zhua and Mrs. Dugu still looked unconvinced. They had talked to Her Majesty before and saw how excited the old lady had been when she thought that they had brought her the fish. Feeling wronged, Jun Wuxia lost her temper. But before she could do anything, Master Bai, the eunuch serving Emperor Wu, arrived. Your Royal Highness, His Majesty wants to see you. Master Bai's tone was very calm, but one could tell that there was an anxious look in his eyes. But Jun Wuxia didn't notice. She asked excitedly, Does my father want to see me? Great. I was planning to go and see His Majesty just now. She was convinced of the happy notion that she was the Emperor's favorite daughter. Otherwise, why would he want to see only her? Seeing how happy Jun Wuxia was, Master Bai said hesitantly, Your Royal Highness, actually. Jun Wuxia had no idea what Master Bai was trying to tell her. She patted him on the shoulder and smiled. Bai, take this gold ring as a reward. Don't worry, there's more to come. Master Bai said, Your Royal Highness, actually it's Her Majesty. Jun Wuxia was thrilled. She wondered if the Empress Dowager had remembered how considerate Jun Wuxia had been to bring her the food, and had told Jun Wuxia's father about it. The more she thought about it, the more excited she became. Looking into Master Bai's eyes, she asked, Where's my father? Bai, tell me, where is His Majesty? His Majesty is with Her Majesty the Empress Dowager, and he couldn't wait to flog Jun Wuxia. Chapter 15:17, Untitled. Chapter 15:17, Untitled. However, Jun Wuxia was too excited to notice Master Bai's awkward expression and she dashed off, moving as effortlessly as a happy butterfly. Master shook his head and heaved a long sigh as he watched her scamper off. "My dear princess, I hope you're strong enough to take it," he thought. Jun Wuxia rushed into the Empress Dowager's tent excitedly. "Father, did you want to see me?" Laxu held up the curtain for Jun Wuxia when she saw her coming. However, Jun Wuxia only heard a furious voice. "Kneel!" The sound was like a thunderclap in Jun Wuxia's ears. Frightened, she stood there in bewilderment and stared at Emperor Wu in disbelief. Father. Jun Wuxia sounded scared because she really was terrified. Emperor Wu glared at her. "Kneel, now." He sounded so fierce. He had never spoken to her like this before. Jun Wuxia immediately burst into tears. Emperor Wu had a lot of daughters, but only one mother. Needless to say, they didn't mean the same to him. "Make her kneel," Emperor Wu bellowed. Jun Wuxia was dumbfounded. She even forgot to cry. Raising her head, she stared at Emperor Wu in bewilderment. There was no expression on her face, as if she had really been struck by lightning. "Make her kneel. Make her kneel." Those words kept replaying in her head. Emperor Wu had quite a few guards around him, and two of them stepped out. One grabbed Jun Wuxia's arm, while the other one pressed her down. Thump! Poor Jun Wuxia. She was forced to drop to her knees. "Father!" Jun Wuxia finally realized what was happening. She burst into tears, crawled toward Emperor Wu on all fours, and cried loudly as she wrapped her arms around his thigh. "Father! Father! Why are you doing this to me? Father, what did I do?" Jun Wuxia cried so sadly and looked heartbroken. Emperor Wu pitied her for a second or two, but when he thought about his bettered mother, he flared up again. He stared at Jun Wuxia. "Did you bring Her Majesty the roast fish?" Jun Wuxia was perplexed, but she still nodded. Emperor Wu asked, "Did you cook it yourself?" Jun Wuxia felt conflicted. Of course the answer was no, but she had already told the Empress Dowager that she had cooked the fish herself. Was there something wrong with it? That shouldn't be the case. What could possibly be wrong with the fish? If she admitted now that she hadn't roasted the fish herself, it would damage the Empress Dowager's trust in her. "Did you roast it yourself or not?" Emperor Wu glared at her. "Yes, I roasted it myself." Jun Wuxia acknowledged it. "You roasted the fish, brought it here, and fed it to Her Majesty all by yourself?" Emperor Wu looked into Jun Wuxia's eyes. Jun Wuxia said, "Yes." Slap. Emperor Wu slapped her in the face. "How dare you?" Blood oozed out from the corner of her mouth, and she was dumbfounded. "Father, how dare you try to harm Her Majesty? Why did you do it? Speak." Emperor Wu's eyes were bloodshot red. It pained him to see the way the Empress Dowager lay weakly in bed. Chapter 1518, Untitled. Chapter 1518, Untitled. Jun Wuxia felt wronged and perplexed, and she burst into tears. "Father, it wasn't me. Why would I do such a thing? All I've ever wanted to do is please Her Majesty. I would never harm her." "Father, you didn't try to harm Her Majesty?" Emperor Wu smirked. "You roasted the fish, you brought it here, and you fed it to Her Majesty. But now, you're saying that you didn't do anything?" "Jun Wuxia, I've indulged you too much, and you've forgotten how to behave yourself. How dare you do this to Her Majesty?" Jun Wuxia was really terrified now. She shook her head as she cried. No, Father, I didn't do that. I really didn't. I didn't roast the fish. That's right. I didn't cook it myself." Emperor Wu was so angry that he laughed. "Now that something has gone wrong, you're saying that you didn't roast the fish? So tell me who cooked it." "She did." Jun Wuxia pointed at Feng Wu. Immediately, all eyes were on Feng Wu. Feng Wu was too good an actress for Jun Wuxia to handle. She was a professional. There was the most innocent look on Feng Wu's stunning face. She shrugged and looked confused. "Your Royal Highness, I've been trying my best to stay out of your way these days, fearing that I may upset you, but I really didn't see this coming. I'm trying to stay as far away from you as possible, but you're still blaming it on me." Feng Wu's tears came very fast. She cried so prettily, and together with her stunning beauty, it was heartbreaking to see her like this. Compared with her, Jun Wuxia was howling like an animal. Jun Wuxia was very easily agitated, and she was infuriated by what Feng Wu said. She was the child of Empress Dugu and Emperor Wu's favorite daughter. She had never felt so mistreated before. Springing to her feet, she jumped at Feng Wu. "Feng Wu, you set me up. I'm going to kill you." She tried to grab Feng Wu's hair. Feng Wu had been standing next to Jun Lin Yuan, and 100 Jun Wuxias put together wouldn't be able to threaten Feng Wu if she hid behind Jun Lin Yuan. However, since Jun Wuxia said that Feng Wu had set her up, Feng Wu decided to give her what she wanted. Feng Wu acted as if she was frightened, and she quickly hid behind Emperor Wu. What she didn't notice was that when she ran behind Emperor Wu, someone else's extended hand froze in midair. He stared at Feng Wu with cold, furious eyes. Jun Wuxia was so infuriated that she could no longer think straight. She charged at Feng Wu, waving her arms and ignoring who was in the way. When Feng Wu hid behind Emperor Wu, Jun Wuxia flung herself into Emperor Wu's arms. Jun Wuxia's weapon was her nails. They would suddenly grow very long and sharp when she lost her temper. Her long, sharp nails slashed across Emperor Wu's cheeks. Poor Emperor Wu was caught off guard. If he had been vigilant, there was no way Jun Wuxia could have hurt him. Blood sprayed from his cheeks. Emperor Wu was dumbfounded. So was the crowd. Everyone stared at Jun Wuxia in astonishment. Those scratches. Jun Wuxia was in so much trouble. Chapter 1519, Untitled. Chapter 1519, Untitled. However, Jun Wuxia was still in a frenzied state and had no idea that she had injured Emperor Wu. She was behaving like a madwoman. "Feng Wu, stop hiding behind other people. Come out. I'm going to kill you. Come out right now." Jun Wuxia kicked and screamed like a crazy person. Emperor Wu was so furious that he shook. "Someone," Emperor Wu bellowed, "take the princess down." Immediately, two stalwart men stepped out. They each took one of Jun Wuxia's arms and pressed her down until she was on her knees. Hasty footsteps came from outside. Seeing that things were going south, Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Hua had gone to fetch Empress Dugu to save the day. Empress Dugu arrived to find the mad Jun Wuxia kneeling on the ground. She then saw Emperor Wu, whose cheeks was still bleeding, and the unscathed Feng Wu and Jun Wuxia. She wanted to run to Jun Wuxia's side immediately, but she was more sensible than that and knew that Emperor Wu was more important. "Your Majesty," taking Emperor Wu's hand, Empress Dugu was heartbroken. She then shouted, "Doctor, where's the doctor?" Master Chu was away, but luckily, the eunuch was around. Bai hurried into the tent with a medical kit, but Emperor Wu stopped him. He walked up to Jun Wuxia and looked at her in frustration and disappointment. "Jun Wuxia, when did you become so unruly?" Emperor Wu was furious. "Not only did you poison Her Majesty, you injured me as well. How dare you?" Jun Wuxia had calmed down a little, but she was still very angry. Feeling wronged, she said stubbornly, "I didn't poison Her Majesty. I didn't." Empress Dugu interjected and said softly, "Your Majesty, you watched Wuxia grow up, and she has always been a good girl. She wouldn't have changed so drastically." "Your Majesty." Empress Dugu had always been very gentle around Emperor Wu. Taking his hand, she said, "Has there been a mistake? Should we give her a chance to explain herself?" "Your Majesty." Emperor Wu gave in to Empress Dugu's soft voice and gradually calmed down as she spoke. He glared at Jun Wuxia. "Fine, I'll give you a chance." Jun Wuxia bit her lower lip. "Feng Wu gave me the roast fish, and she put the poison in it. She's the real culprit. I'm not lying. Wait, I wasn't alone. My fifth sister was with me. Feng Wu gave her a roast fish, too." Immediately, everyone gave Feng Wu strange looks. Empress Dugu stared at Feng Wu in a provoking manner. Emperor Wu narrowed his eyes and glared at Feng Wu like a viper. If Feng Wu really was the culprit. Recalling how harmless she appeared, Emperor Wu felt like tearing her to pieces. Bring the fifth princess here. Emperor Wu kept his gaze on Feng Wu, his eyes glinting coldly. Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Zhua exchanged excited looks. They were convinced that Feng Wu had cooked the fish because that was what Jun Wuxia told them. Emperor Wu stared at Jun Wuxia. If Feng Wu gave you the roast fish, why did you insist earlier that you cook? Chapter 1520, Innocence 1. Chapter 1520, Innocence 1. Biting her lower lip, Jun Wuxia said in a pitiful voice, I didn't know that the fish had been tampered with, and I was trying to give it to Her Majesty to please her. I thought Her Majesty would like me if she thought I cooked it, but I didn't know Feng Wu could be so malicious. Jun Wuxia stared at Feng Wu with hatred in her eyes. She was determined to destroy Feng Wu today. Jun Wuxia, Empress Dugu, Mrs. Dugu, and Mrs. Zhua had formed an alliance to fight Feng Wu. Any other young woman would have surrendered by now, but Feng Wu wasn't just any young woman. She didn't panic, nor did she look shaken. The fifth princess is here. The fifth princess had always been a timid girl. When she saw a big crowd inside, she immediately paled. Father! She dropped to her knees, lowered her head, and looked terrified. Emperor Wu had never liked this timid daughter, so he felt very impatient as soon as he saw her. But he still controlled his temper and stared at the fifth princess with cold eyes. Jun Wuxia told her sister loudly, Sister, tell father that we didn't roast the fish ourselves, did we? Despite her timid appearance, in fact, no one knew that the fifth princess wasn't what she appeared to be. 1,000 ideas flashed through her mind. She wasn't stupid. Of course she knew that Jun Wuxia was the one who made her fall down. But, looking from Jun Wuxia to Empress Dugu, she had to admit that she still couldn't afford to offend her older sister now. After weighing the pros and cons, the fifth princess remained as timid as ever and said gingerly, Father, my sister and I really didn't cook the fish ourselves. Miss Feng Wu gave them to us. Wow! Immediately, all eyes were on Feng Wu again. But the way they looked at her had changed. If that was the truth, Jun Wuxia had lied to the Empress Dowager at most, but Feng Wu. Forget Feng Wu. The entire Feng clan would go down with her. Father, the fifth princess added, I dropped my fish and it got dirty, but it's still there. I can go fetch it and show it to you. She looked up and gave Feng Wu an apologetic glance when she said that. She felt sorry that she still had to take Jun Wuxia aside for now. Hearing that the fifth princess had evidence, Empress Dugu was elated. She said excitedly, Your Majesty, can I go get it? Emperor Wu waved his hand at the chief steward. You go. Be quick about it. The chief steward nodded and quickly left. He came back with the roast fish soon afterward. It was indeed covered in dirt, but it was still intact. What was left of Jun Wuxia's fish was brought in as well. Immediately, all eyes were on Feng Wu, and everyone wondered what further explanation she could give now. Gritting his teeth, Feng Sun wanted to step out. But Feng Wu grabbed his sleeve and shook her head at him. Feng Sun said, but Feng Wu said, Don't worry, I have a plan. Feng Sun said, Are you sure? Feng Wu nodded. But you need to do something for me. She then whispered something in Feng Sun's ear. Chapter 1521, Innocence 2. Chapter 1521, Innocence 2. Feng Sun asked, Will that be enough? Feng Wu said, Yes, that'll do. Go now, and don't let other people notice you. Feng Sun said, All right. Feng Sun slipped away when all eyes were on Feng Wu, without bringing any attention to himself. Meanwhile, Emperor Wu was questioning Feng Wu. Were they telling the truth? Feng Wu walked up to Emperor Wu and knelt down. Your Majesty, I didn't do it. Emperor Wu looked calmly at Feng Wu. Feng Wu was equally calm. She pointed at the 2 roast fish on the table and said quietly, Your Majesty, I swear to God that I didn't roast these 2 fish. If I lie about any of this, may God take all my cultivation ability. That was a rather impressive declaration. Mrs. Wa's eyes flickered. Feng Wu, aren't you afraid that your oath will come true? Feng Wu said calmly. I'm not. Mrs. Wa said, admit what you've done now. Feng Wu still said calmly. I'll never admit to things I haven't done, nor can anyone force me to. Mrs. Wu was furious. You've done a terrible thing, but you're denying it. Feng Wu asked, where's your proof? Mrs. Wu said, the princesses are witnesses, and the 2 fish are the evidence. There's your proof. How dare you deny it? Feng Wu smiled at Mrs. Wu. If that proof is solid, His Majesty would have punished me already, and not just questioned me. Mrs. Wu said, you. Feng Wu turned to look at Emperor Wu, who was staring at her with a livid face and brooding eyes. And he wasn't the only one who looked like that. Many people there doubted Feng Wu. The 2 princesses both said the same thing, and Feng Wu was indeed the only one who had been roasting moonfish. Feng Wu was still smiling. Your Majesty, I can prove my innocence. Prove her innocence. Everyone looked at her curiously and wondered how she was going to do it. Emperor Wu's eyes flickered as well. Prove your innocence? How? What are you going to prove? Feng Wu smiled. Princess Jun Wuxia said that I roasted those fish, so I'm going to prove that I definitely didn't. Wait, everyone was intrigued. Was that doable? How is she going to do that? Does she have some sort of visual record of herself roasting her fish? If not, how can she prove it? Everyone was confused. Even Emperor Wu gave Feng Wu a strange look. How are you going to do that? Feng Wu smiled mildly. With my capability, of course. She then raised her right hand and snapped her fingers. At that moment, the door curtain was lifted, and Feng Sun walked in. He was holding something in his hands. Those are. Everyone was surprised to see the things in his hands. It's the grill and the moonfish. Feng Wu looked at Emperor Wu. Your Majesty, please allow me to prove my innocence. Emperor Wu couldn't believe his ears. So you're going to prove your innocence by roasting fish. Everyone else found that idea idiotic as well. Feng Wu nodded calmly. That's right. Jun Wuxiao almost burst out laughing. One idiot. Chapter 1522, Innocence 3. Chapter 1522, Innocence 3. How different could the fish taste? Would she actually be able to make it into something else? Emperor Wu thought the same. Staring at Feng Wu, he asked, are you sure you'll be able to prove your innocence this way? Feng Wu nodded solemnly. Definitely. However, no one believed her. Therefore, many people shook their heads, including Emperor Wu. People like Empress Dugu and Mrs. Wu even gloated at Feng Wu's predicament. Mrs. Wu murmured, I was wondering how she was going to do it. One idiotic way. How different could one roast fish be from another? Moreover, the standard would be very subjective. However, Feng Wu ignored all the looks they gave her and even looked up at Emperor Wu. She asked, Your Majesty, should I do it here or take it outside? Emperor Wu only stared at Feng Wu as if he was looking at a dead person. Jun Linyuan spoke at that moment. Right here. That was all he said, but his tone was very domineering. Emperor Wu stared at Jun Linyuan, and there was no warmth in his eyes. Jun Linyuan wasn't affected at all. He didn't even look at Emperor Wu. Emperor Wu was frustrated. Feng Wu didn't want to go out either, because it would complicate the explanation. Hence, she set up the grill and put the seasoned fish on top. At first, everyone frowned. Feng Wu was so bold. How could she possibly dare to roast fish in front of His Majesty? Emperor Wu frowned as well, because he felt offended. However, as time went by, sizzle. When Feng Wu activated her formation, the first hint of the aroma wafted up in the air. Hey, what's that smell? Why is it so nice? Their attitudes toward Feng Wu began to change. But she was just getting started. 3 minutes later, they smelled another aroma. It was even stronger than the previous one. OMG, the less steadfast ones already began to feel their mouths water. Even Mrs. Wu, who was firmly against Feng Wu, couldn't help but swallow. Seeing their reactions, Feng Sun put his hands behind his back and proudly stuck out his chest. They now knew why he and Xian would fight over a piece of fish because it tasted like nothing else. No one but Feng Wu could make something like this. The fish would be ready to serve now, if Feng Wu had been cooking for Feng Sun and Xian Yi, but she decided to show these people her true capability. Hence, 3 minutes later, the dense spiritual essence doubled again. She could hear people swallowing around her. They were all staring at Feng Wu eagerly. Feng Wu smiled a little and sped up. When the last bit of the thick aroma filled the air, Feng Wu put out the fire with a wave of her hand. A glossy, golden roast fish was presented to the crowd. SSSS. Emperor Wu wanted to act unperturbed and indifferent, but he couldn't control his appetite. He swallowed. People like Empress Dugu and Jun Wuxiao were filled with hatred toward Feng Wu. However, when the aroma filled the tent, they started to swallow uncontrollably. Feng Wu looked up and glanced at them. Chapter 1523, Innocence 4. Chapter 1523, Innocence 4. How humiliating. Jun Wuxia didn't dare to even move a muscle. It's just a roast fish. Big deal. But at that moment, someone walked into the tent. It was none other than the Empress Dowager herself. Your Majesty, please go back and lie down. Granny Lan was almost in tears. Feng Wu had tended to the Empress Dowager already and had written her a prescription. However, the old lady had wandered off when Granny Lan went to prepare the concoction. Following the aroma, she saw the Empress Dowager, who was hovering outside the tent. The Empress Dowager threw Granny Lan's hands off and cast a stern look at her. Go away. After pushing Granny Lan away, the Empress Dowager quickly walked toward Feng Wu. The others had already turned around when Granny Lan addressed the Empress Dowager, and all they saw was the haggard old lady walking in without her outer robe. The Empress Dowager was always properly dressed and very tidy, but now she was unbelievably casual. Mother! Emperor Wu rushed over toward his mother and held her hand. But the Empress Dowager only pushed him away. She headed straight for Feng Wu. To be more precise, she was running toward the roast fish. She was attracted by the aroma, but when she saw the roast fish, she looked disappointed. Roast fish? She had tried it before and didn't think much of it. However, after taking a few steps in the opposite direction, the Empress Dowager stopped, turned around, and stared at the fish again. Her gaze was glued to the fish. That was to say, although she was standing in front of Feng Wu, she didn't know that it was the girl who was roasting the fish. Everyone around them looked to Her Majesty in bewilderment. This childish old lady was in stark contrast to the graceful Empress Dowager they knew. She stood in front of the grill, and her hands reached out. She then drew them back before reaching out again. Emperor Wu was about to go to her, when Feng Wu said quietly, Her Majesty is in a dreamlike state now. In other words, Her Majesty is sleepwalking. All eyes were on her. Putting her hands behind her back, Feng Wu said calmly, If someone wakes Her Majesty up now, it's very likely that she'll be very confused. In layman terms, she'll become mentally crippled. Wow! Immediately, everyone held their breaths. Some even covered their mouths with their hands, worried that their breathing might disturb the old lady. What are we going to do now? Emperor Wu didn't realize that he was whispering in Feng Wu's ear. Feng Wu said quietly, It's quite easy, actually. Don't disturb Her Majesty, and let her do whatever she wants. Once the obsession is over, we'll be able to guide her toward going to sleep. Sure. Emperor Wu obeyed Feng Wu's instruction. Meanwhile, the Empress Dowager. She couldn't see anything but the roast fish. Finally, she couldn't suppress her desire anymore and picked up the fish. She gently tore a small piece off and slowly put it in her mouth. She looked very hesitant. She thought she knew what the roast fish tasted like, but she didn't know why she felt so tempted, which was why she looked distracted. However, when she put the first piece into her mouth, Chapter 1524, Innocence 5. Chapter 1524, Innocence 5. Everyone looked at the old lady. The roast fish simply smelled so nice that they all wanted to grab it and stuff it into their mouths. Therefore, they were eager to see how the Empress Dowager would react. But the Empress Dowager was a little slow to do so. She chewed slowly. She frowned at first. The others were intrigued by that frown, especially people like Mrs. Zwa, who were thrilled. Was it bad? Awful? However, 3 seconds later, the Empress Dowager looked more and more surprised. In the end, she seemed astonished, and her eyes widened as well. The others found it hard to understand because it was just a roast fish. What could be so astonishing about it? However, the next second, everyone watched as the Empress Dowager rushed toward the grill despite her clumsy movements. She then picked up the fish with both hands the way one would hold a baby. Wow! She then took a very large bite. Right after that, everyone watched as the supposedly graceful Empress Dowager gnawed on the fish like a crazy person. She reminded the others of a zombie biting a human being. She was so excited that she looked completely crazy. Mother! Emperor Wu couldn't bring himself to watch anymore, but before he could walk up to his mother, Feng Wu gave him an indifferent glance. He immediately stopped. Is Her Majesty really going to be all right like this? Emperor Wu asked anxiously. Feng Wu waved grumpily. She's just a bit ravenous, that's all. Plus, moonfish doesn't have many bones. What can possibly go wrong? Seeing the way the Empress Dowager wolfed down the fish, Jun Wuxia had a bad feeling. That didn't seem right. Didn't the Empress Dowager find the roast fish awful before? Why was she? Could it be possible that there was something different with Feng Wu's roast fish? Feng Wu, what did you put in it? Why is Her Majesty like this? Empress Dugu couldn't take it anymore and asked in a harsh tone. Feng Wu glanced at her and said indifferently, Nothing really. I just added some mustard grass. Empress Dugu asked, What's mustard grass? What does it do? Feng Wu said, Not much, but it can relieve Her Majesty's itching. Empress Dugu said, Feng Wu smiled mildly and told Feng Sun, I roasted 2 fish just then. Since Her Majesty won't let go of hers, just cut up the other one and let everyone try it. Sure, the proud young Lord Feng always listened to Feng Wu. Feng Wu decided to let the others see what the fish was like for themselves. However, Mrs. Zhuo waved her hands. I'm not eating that thing. I won't. Feng Sun's face darkened a little. Fine. No one was forcing her. Mrs. Dugu waved her hands as well. No, I'm not eating it. Feng Sun was rendered speechless. But it wasn't the case with the others. No one was strong enough to resist the tempting aroma, and they all took a piece. Take Master Bai, the physician, for example. He only planned to take a small bite, but he couldn't stop after the first bite. He kept stuffing more fish in his mouth. Chapter 1525, Innocence 6. Chapter 1525, Innocence 6. It was simply so delicious. He had never tried anything so wonderful before. Master Bai wasn't the only one. Other people reacted the same way. Mrs. Dugu and Mrs. Zhuo looked at one another, and both seemed surprised. What was wrong with these people? Why did they look like they had just taken opium and lost their minds? Feng Sun gave everyone Feng Wu's fish first before giving them the fish which the 5th princess had brought in. Oh God, what the hell is that? After tasting Feng Wu's roast fish, they couldn't stand something that was so subpar. It wasn't just worse. It was a polar opposite to what Feng Wu made. How can they possibly have been made by the same person? They definitely didn't come from the same cook. Feng Wu is such an amazing cook. How can this horrible fish be her work? Hearing the comments, Feng Wu knew that she had almost succeeded. She turned to Emperor Wu and asked confidently, Your Majesty, have you tasted the difference? She had already removed the tickling powder from the 5th princess's fish, and she was determined to show other people the difference. Emperor Wu felt very conflicted. He wasn't an idiot, so of course he could taste the difference. Because of that, he couldn't help Jun Wuxia even if he wanted to. Emperor Wu stared at Jun Wuxia with a stern look on his face and wouldn't say a word. But everyone could tell that a storm was coming. What else do you have to say for yourself now? Emperor Wu stared at Jun Wuxia, looking very intimidating. Jun Wuxia had also tasted the fish roasted by Feng Wu, so she knew how different the two were. Father, it wasn't me. I really didn't roast the fish. I didn't. Emperor Wu snorted. If you didn't, who did? I have no idea. You don't? Didn't you just say that Feng Wu was the one who roasted the fish, but now you're saying that you don't know? Emperor Wu pressed on. With everything that had happened, Jun Wuxia no longer dared to blame Feng Wu. After all, Feng Wu had just proven her innocence with her own talent. I thought it was Feng Wu before who roasted it, but it turns out that she's not the culprit. So, it has to be someone else. Jun Wuxia's voice trailed off. She hadn't mentioned Feng Sun's name so far, because she knew that if she gave Feng Sun up, nothing could ever happen between the two of them after this. Feng Sun would never forgive her. You're full of lies. A princess like you is a humiliation to the Junwu Empire. Take her down. I'm going to remove her title and make her a commoner. Your Majesty. Your Majesty. Father. Jun Wuxia finally panicked. She rushed up to Emperor Wu, wrapped her arms around his thigh, and burst into tears. Father, Father, please don't. I remember now. It was Feng Sun. Feng Sun gave us those fish. Jun Wuxia finally made the choice between her title and her love. Immediately, everyone gave Feng Sun strange looks. They didn't expect him to be implicated. But Feng Sun was very calm. Emperor Wu stared at Jun Wuxia. Are you telling the truth? Chapter 1526, Untitled. Chapter 1526, Untitled. Jun Wuxia said, It's true. I'm telling the truth. I swear it. Father, you can ask my sister if you don't believe me. Emperor Wu stared at the fifth princess. The younger princess was thrilled when she heard that Jun Wuxia was going to lose her title and become a commoner. However, she wasn't happy for too long before she realized something. With Empress Dugu and Emperor Wu's favor, Jun Wuxia would never become a commoner. Therefore, the fifth princess still had to play the good girl and take Jun Wuxia's side. Therefore, Father, young Lord Feng did give us the fish, but Feng Wu was roasting some fish herself, so we just thought that she had cooked those as well. I didn't realize that we misunderstood. She then bowed to Feng Wu and said gently, It was all our fault that Miss Feng Wu was falsely accused. Please accept our apology. Feng Wu only glanced at her. Everyone only thought of Jun Wuyu, the fifth princess, as this timid girl, and underestimated her. However, Feng Wu smiled a little. Not only was Jun Wuyu very observant, she could also adjust her strategy accordingly. She could adapt to the situation and was a great actress as well. With someone like this around her, Jun Wuxia would have a very hard time in the future. Feng Wu decided that she would leave the enemy to deal with Jun Wuxia and wood metal. My princess, you flatter me. Don't worry about it. Feng Wu smiled. Emperor Wu stared at Jun Wuxia. Come over here and apologize to Feng Wu. Apologize to Feng Wu. Jun Wuxia's rebellious side instantly flared up. However, Empress Dugu kept giving her warning glances. With the current situation, if she still wouldn't let go of her pride, Emperor Wu would dislike her even more. But for Jun Wuxia, apologizing to Feng Wu was worse than death. Feng Sun did give us the fish, but who gave it to him? Was it really not Feng Wu? Clenching her fists, Jun Wuxia asked another question. Are you an idiot? Jun Wuyu thought, wanting to smack her sister on the head. Feng Wu had proven her innocence to everyone with her absolute talent. There was no question of it. Why would Jun Wuxia still try to blame it on Feng Wu? Was she really an idiot now? Emperor Wu stared at Feng Sun. I'm going to give you a chance to explain yourself. Jun Linyuan was just about the only one who didn't feel intimidated by Emperor Wu's authority. Feng Sun was no exception. However, he bowed to the emperor and said calmly, Your Majesty, I ran across those fish and picked them up off the ground. Emperor Wu asked, You picked them up? Everyone gave Feng Sun and Jun Wuxia strange looks. Feng Sun said, Your Majesty, I was walking past a thick growth of grass and found the fish just lying there. Since it was very close to the campsite, I was worried that they would smell, so I thought I should throw them further away. But to my surprise, he turned around and looked at Jun Wuxia. The princess held my arm and begged me to give them to her, saying that she wanted to eat them. Jun Wuxia was astonished. Feng Sun looked distressed. Since the fish had been on the ground, how could I give it to the princess? Naturally, I said no. But the princess wouldn't let go of my arm. She begged and even cried. Feng Sun heaved a long sigh. I really had no other choice, because the princess was just... I couldn't turn her down. The crowd now looked at Jun Wuxia strangely. Chapter 1527, Cry Out 1. Chapter 1527, Cry Out 1. Everyone had heard about Jun Wuxia's crush on Feng Sun. The fact that she was head over heels in love with him was public knowledge. Therefore, everyone believed what Feng Sun said. However, Jun Wuxia yelled, "Feng Sun, you're lying. That's just a load of crap." Feng Sun gave her an awkward look. "Your Royal Highness, I told you then that I found the fish on the ground, and it wasn't edible, and what did you say? You said that you would throw it away for me." However, Feng Sun's tone changed, and he stared at Jun Wuxia in disbelief. How could you give something you were supposed to throw away to Her Majesty? That was a very serious accusation. It suggested that Jun Wuxia was deliberately trying to harm the Empress Dowager. Immediately, everyone stared at her in disbelief. Jun Wuxia was too shocked to speak as well. She had no idea how to refute Feng Sun and could only shake her head repeatedly. "No, it wasn't like that. You're lying." Feng Sun spoke in a sorry tone as he stared at her. "Your Royal Highness, you knew perfectly well that I was the one who gave you the roast fish, but you tried to blame Feng Wu first, and when you saw that it wasn't going to work, you tried to frame me instead. But the truth is that you knew all along that the fish was found on the side of the road and wasn't clean. How could you let Her Majesty eat it? Did you think you can use Her Majesty's power to kill Feng Wu? My princess, I'm so disappointed in you." Jun Wuxia was astonished. Feng Sun then turned to Emperor Wu and said solemnly, "Your Majesty, I'm telling nothing but the truth. I swear." Jun Wuxia shrieked, "No, it wasn't like that. You're lying." Feng Sun stared at her. "How is that a lie?" Jun Wuxia shouted. "You lied about finding the fish by the side of the road. Feng Wu might still be the actual cook." Feng Sun said, "Your Royal Highness, why won't you just admit it? You've seen how well Feng Wu can cook. How could she possibly make something like this?" Jun Wuxia said, "In that case, maybe you roasted the fish." Now that her interests were concerned, she didn't care about Feng Sun anymore. Feng Sun stared at her in disbelief. "I roasted the fish? With someone like Feng Wu around, why would I do such a thing? Are you even listening to yourself?" Jun Wuxia was speechless. She had completely run out of excuses. Nothing she said seemed to work, and her words only incriminated her further. Staring at Jun Wuxia, Emperor Wu was furious. How could he have such a stupid daughter? Jun Wuxia was still yelling. "How good can Feng Wu's roast fish be? It's nothing out of the ordinary." The others all gave her strange looks. Nothing out of the ordinary. It just so happened that... "Oh no!" Feng Sun suddenly cried out in surprise. Everyone turned to look at him. "Sorry, Your Majesty." As soon as Feng Sun sat down, the others heard a faint buzzing sound. That was... They all stared at Feng Sun in disbelief. He was about to make a breakthrough. Emperor Wu was surprised as well. What a coincidence! Chapter 1528, Cry Out 2. Chapter 1528, Cry Out 2. "It's because of the roast fish," Xian Yi explained. "The fish contains a special kind of spiritual essence that can trigger breakthroughs." Mrs. Wu snorted. "Young Lord Sun, I see that you're on Feng Wu's side. That's just preposterous. You're trying to give all the credit to Feng Wu." She wasn't the only one who wouldn't believe it. No one in the tent would. They all admitted that Feng Wu was a great cook, but there was no way that some delicious food could lead to a breakthrough. That's just outrageous. I can't believe that young Lord Xian would tell a lie like that. It seems that he and Feng Wu are very close. What he said is impossible. A breakthrough? Don't make me laugh. Jun Wuxiao almost burst out laughing. Xian Yi might think he's doing Feng Wu a favor, but he isn't helping her at all. This is going to seriously undermine my father's impression of Feng Wu, she thought. As expected, when she stole a glance at Emperor Wu, she saw that his eyes were as black as bottomless pools. Jun Wuxia and Empress Dugu looked at each other, and both saw satisfaction in each other's eyes. But, before they realized it, something flickered in Xian Yi's eyes. Lifting the lower hem of his robe, he sat down on the ground after apologizing to Emperor Wu. It was exactly the same as what Feng Sun had done. Everyone stared at Xian Yi in bewilderment. What was he doing? I ate too much fish. Please give me a moment. Xian Yi closed his eyes after that. Rumble. A few seconds later, everyone heard the sound of a breakthrough. They couldn't believe their ears. He ate too much and needed a moment. So, he was speeding up his digestion by having a breakthrough? That was unbelievable. However, it was the truth. After Feng Sun, Xian Yi made a breakthrough as well. Everyone held their breaths and looked shocked. Is it possible that their breakthroughs have something to do with the roast fish? Can the fish be that extraordinary? It's just roast fish. Maybe Feng Sun and Xian Yi have been suppressing their breakthroughs until now. Are you sure? I don't think so. Then how do you explain the fact that they're the only ones who have made breakthroughs? I'll believe it if someone else who has eaten the fish makes a breakthrough now. That's right. Feng Sun and Xian Yi just aren't convincing enough. They were still hesitating when, all of a sudden, wait a minute, someone in the crowd cried out. They all turned to look. It was none other than Master Bai, the physician himself. Pressing a hand to his dantian, Master Bai stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. Feng Sun and Xian Yi were sitting side by side. Just then, Master Bai quickly walked up to them and sat down next to Xian Yi. He then apologized to Emperor Wu. Your Majesty, sorry about this. As soon as he said that, a buzzing sound filled the air. The rest of the crowd was astonished. People like Mrs. Zhua had been talking about how Feng Sun's and Xian Yi's breakthroughs weren't convincing enough, but they had to face the truth now. Oh God, Master Bai is making a breakthrough. Oh my God, I can't believe this. That's so frightening. Feng Wu's food can help with our cultivation. Emperor Wu was shocked. Empress Dugu was shocked. So was Jun Wuxia, and everyone else. Chapter 1529, The Surprising Empress Dowager, 1. Chapter 1529, The Surprising Empress Dowager, 1. How could they not be surprised? After what happened to Master Bai, everyone turned to look at Feng Wu. That was crazy. Something Feng Wu had casually cooked could help people with their breakthroughs. What did that mean? Emperor Wu stared at Feng Wu in disbelief, a lot of thoughts already running through his head. He took a deep breath. He really needed some time to calm down, because it was such a big deal. No way. It has to be a coincidence. It has to be. Jun Wuxia shook her head resolutely. Feng Wu must have paid Master Bai off. That has to be it. Everyone found her words idiotic. How dumb could she be? Feng Wu was already sincere enough, trying to prove herself over and over again until she was practically shoving the evidence in Jun Wuxia's face. But Jun Wuxia acted like a fool and kept shaking her head, saying that she wouldn't believe it. Even Empress Dugu couldn't stand it anymore. She grabbed her daughter's hand and shook her head at her, warning her to keep her voice down. Where there is life, there is hope. Don't bluster so much. Be quiet. Empress Dugu warned Jun Wuxia in a low voice. But Jun Wuxia was so agitated now that she couldn't think straight anymore. All she knew was her hatred toward Feng Wu, and she wouldn't listen to anyone else. It's fake. They're faking it. It's just a show they're putting on. Looking around, Jun Wuxia suddenly rested her hands on her waist and guffawed. She then pointed at the Empress Dowager, who was still tearing at the roast fish, and said, Feng Wu, if you're that amazing, after the amount of roast fish Her Majesty has eaten, why can't you make her have a breakthrough? If that happens, I'll kneel down and call you my great-grandmother. Everyone stared at her in disbelief. Kneel down and address Feng Wu as her great-grandmother? What was the princess thinking? If Feng Wu was her great-grandmother, she would become Emperor Wu's grandmother and the Empress Dowager's mother. Jun Wuxia had obviously lost her mind. Infuriated, Emperor Wu shouted, "What a load of nonsense! Take her away now." But he was too late. The Empress Dowager was finally full. She rubbed her belly and burped. All would be fine if that was all she did. However, there was a rumbling sound when she burped. Rumble. It was as long and melodious as the sound of a flute. Hearing that sound, everyone fell silent with astonishment. That was... wow. Shit. OMG. Did Her Majesty just... Everyone looked from the Empress Dowager to Feng Wu, then to Emperor Wu. Did Her Majesty just have a bowel movement? I think so. No, she didn't. Can't you see all the spiritual essence rushing toward Her Majesty? That's no bowel movement. That is to say, Her Majesty has. Can it be any more obvious? Her Majesty just had a breakthrough. Everyone then turned to look at Jun Wuxia in bewilderment. Only a minute had passed since Jun Wuxia said those words. Feng Wu, if you're that amazing, after the amount of roast fish Her Majesty has eaten, why can't you make her have a breakthrough? If that happens, I'll kneel down and call you my great-grandmother. Chapter 1530. The Surprising Empress Dowager 2. Chapter 1530. The Surprising Empress Dowager 2. The princess just said that if Her Majesty can make a breakthrough, she'll kneel in front of Feng Wu and address her as her great-grandmother. Well, Jun Wuxia was dumbfounded. She stood there in a trance-like state as if she had just been struck by lightning. Her brain seemed to have stopped working. Meanwhile, Emperor Wu turned around and stared at Jun Wuxia. If he could, he would smack her head off now. Seeing Emperor Wu's trembling right hand, Empress Dugan knew what he wanted to do. She immediately dropped to her knees. Your Majesty, Your Majesty. Her Majesty could really have just had a bowel movement. After all, she's still dreaming. Mrs. Wu also knelt to plead for Jun Wuxia. Your Majesty, the princess is still a child. Please don't mind what she said. Mrs. Dugu shoved Feng Wu and warned her in a low voice. Say something for the princess right now. Do you think you can walk away unscathed if something happens to her? Unfortunately, Feng Wu didn't believe in threats. She might have given Jun Wuxia a hand if these people had spoken nicely, but they tried to threaten her instead. Wrong choice. Feng Wu acted as if she didn't hear her at all. Mrs. Dugu stared at Feng Wu with eyes filled with hatred and wanted to kill the girl right there and then. Since she couldn't persuade Feng Wu, she had to beg Emperor Wu instead. Your Majesty, from what I know, Her Majesty indeed only had a bowel movement. Please don't blame the princess for something she didn't do. A bowel movement. Those around them stared at the people of the Dugu family in amazement. If they had to lie, at least put more effort into it. They were lying through their teeth. That wasn't a bowel movement at all. A bowel movement? Do you take me for a fool? Emperor Wu pushed Empress Dugu away. Yes, it was. Her Majesty just had a bowel movement. With everything that had happened, Jun Wuxia still insisted that the Empress Dowager hadn't made a breakthrough. Unless Her Majesty does it again, I'll never be convinced, even if Your Majesty kills me for it. Jun Wuxia spoke stubbornly as she knelt. She raised her chin, looking as proud as a swan. Lady Northern Feng had arrived when no one was looking, and she shook her head in resignation. Having such a princess was such a humiliation for the royal family. Emperor Wu probably felt the same way, because he kept pointing at Jun Wuxia with a trembling finger. After everything that has happened, you're still brazen enough to argue with me? Do you have any shame at all? Jun Wuxia, I was so wrong about you. This is your true self. I won't believe it. I won't. Unless Her Majesty. Before she could finish, the Empress Dowager farted, long and loud. Elated, Jun Wuxia looked up, her twinkling black eyes reminding one of stars in the sky. Father, listen. Did you hear that? That's a bowel movement, isn't it? Her Majesty is. However, she was still talking excitedly when she heard a slight rumbling sound. The spiritual essence gathered to once again wrap around the Empress Dowager. What? OMG, is that what I think it is? Her Majesty is. Feng Wu really is incredible. Immediately, everyone stared at Feng Wu in disbelief, as if they had just seen God. Chapter 1531. The Surprising Empress Dowager 3. Chapter 1531. The Surprising Empress Dowager 3. If they could, they too wanted to kneel and call her their great-grandmother. Feng Wu was quite baffled herself, until Feng Sun tugged her sleeve. His breakthrough was over, and he had returned to Feng Wu's side when she wasn't looking. He was now looking at her, with a complicated emotion in his eyes. Xiao Wu, you're still ours, aren't you? Feng Wu rolled her eyes at him. What do you mean? Pressing his lips together, Feng Sun said more directly, do you know how many people will try to follow you around from now on? Do you know how popular you're going to become? Do you know how much Feng Yinfeng and his family will regret what they've done? So, you're still my sister, aren't you? Feng Sun studied Feng Wu's face carefully and tentatively asked for her opinion. Feng Wu was filled with emotion. Back in northern border city, Feng Sun had been friendly toward her, but still couldn't hide his sense of superiority. But now, he was asking gingerly if she was still his sister. She smacked Feng Sun's head and said grumpily, what are you talking about? Of course I'm still your sister. Don't you want to be my brother anymore? Ha ha. Feng Sun laughed in excitement. Little Feng Wu is my sister. My sister is little Feng Wu. Ha ha. Feng Wu rolled her eyes at him and found him such a fool. However, those around them all gave Feng Sun envious looks. So that's why young Lord Feng has been making such rapid progress these days. That's right. Young Lord Feng isn't the only one. There's young Lord Xian as well. I bet they can enjoy Feng Wu's cooking all the time. Gosh, I envy them so much. The other people didn't hide their envious tones. At the same time, Mrs. Hua had never regretted a decision so much. She was stuck at a bottleneck herself. If she had accepted a piece of the roast fish, she might have made a breakthrough as well. Mrs. Dugu felt the same way. Meanwhile, Emperor Wu was also staring at Feng Wu with a strange look in his eyes. He looked from Feng Wu to Jun Linyuan. He finally understood why Jun Linyuan kept Feng Wu around him. Despite his reluctance, he had no choice but to admit it. He patted Jun Linyuan on the shoulder. That was very thoughtful and prudent of you. I have to admit now that you're better at reading people than I am. Jun Linyuan only gave him an indifferent glance with his brooding eyes without saying a word. If there's nothing else, you can all leave now. Putting his hands behind his back, Emperor Wu looked around the room. The emperor had spoken, so of course no one dared to linger. Jun Wuxia was the first to move. She had to stay here, and she probably wouldn't be a princess anymore. However, Emperor Wu snorted. Jun Wuxia, stop right there. Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan can stay. The rest of you can go now. Emperor Wu had made it very clear that Empress Dugu had no excuse to stay behind. She looked at Jun Wuxia with concern before she shot a wary glance at Feng Wu. Jun Wuxia was cornered even when the Empress was around. With her gone, the Empress wondered what her poor daughter would have to face. Chapter 1532, Untitled. Chapter 1532, Untitled. Your Majesty, Empress Dugu had just started to speak when Emperor Wu shook his head at her. My Empress, please leave. With his dark face, he looked severe and authoritative. Empress Dugu knew Emperor Wu too well. Seeing that he was genuinely angry, she didn't dare say another word and back down. Everyone else stayed away for fear of getting into trouble, but people like Empress Dugu and Mrs. Wu remained outside the tent and paced back and forth. Back in the tent, Emperor Wu stared at Jun Wuxia, and his brooding eyes reminded her of an eagle. Intimidated, Jun Wuxia stumbled back involuntarily. You're a princess of the empire, but your behavior is odious. Emperor Wu looked from Jun Wuxia to Feng Wu, and he felt even more infuriated. He couldn't understand why he had such a foolish daughter. How unfair. Pursing her lips, Jun Wuxia wanted to say something, but she couldn't utter a word. Her eyes were filled with hatred when she glanced at Feng Wu out of the corner of her eye. How dare you hold a grudge against Feng Wu? Emperor Wu felt as if flames were burning in his chest, threatening to destroy everything. Your mother begged me to forgive you, but you're just so stubborn and won't admit your mistake. Jun Wuxia, how dare you? Emperor Wu pointed at Jun Wuxia and said, your title, father. Jun Wuxia was finally scared, because she saw the ruthless look in Emperor Wu's eyes and finally realized that if she continued with her willful behavior, she really would be stripped of her title. Father. Jun Wuxia scrambled toward Emperor Wu on her knees and wrapped her arms around his thigh. Father, it's all my fault. I'm just an ignorant girl, so please forgive me. I'm really sorry. Father. After all, they were father and daughter, and the bond was impossible to break. When Jun Wuxia acted tough and stubborn, Emperor Wu was so furious that he became very intimidating. Now that Jun Wuxia's attitude had softened, Emperor Wu relented as well when he saw the pitiful way she cried and pleaded with him. However, despite his feelings, Emperor Wu still kept his face straight, and he stared at Jun Wuxia. What good will just begging me do? Emperor Wu glanced in Feng Wu's direction. In a critical moment like this, Jun Wuxia suddenly became a lot smarter. She knew what her father meant. He was telling her to apologize to Feng Wu. But deep down, Jun Wuxia was very reluctant. She was a proper princess, and Empress Dugu was her mother, making her far more superior to other princesses. But now, she had to apologize to a commoner. But if she didn't apologize, clenching her fists and grinding her teeth, Jun Wuxia shook from head to toe. She slowly walked over to Feng Wu and gave a deep bow. I'm sorry. There, she finally said it. She burst into tears as soon as she spoke before she turned around and ran out. She moved too fast for anyone to stop her. Now that she had apologized, Emperor Wu didn't know what to do with her after she fled. She's incorrigible, Emperor Wu said angrily. But after all, Jun Wuxia had apologized, so Feng Wu said calmly, Your Majesty, please don't be mad. Her Royal Highness is still young. I'm sure she'll become more considerate when she's older. Those words wouldn't sound too odd if it hadn't been Feng Wu who said them, since she was younger than Jun Wuxia. Chapter 1533, Untitled. Chapter 1533, Untitled. Thus, Emperor Wu took a deep breath when he looked at Feng Wu, but didn't comment on what she had just said. In the end, he waved at her and said, You should go and examine Her Majesty now. Feng Wu nodded. By then, Granny Lan had already taken the Empress Dowager back to bed. Compared with her pale complexion before, the Empress Dowager now looked amazing. Resting her hands on her abdomen, the Empress Dowager smiled a little and looked happy even in sleep. With her rosy cheeks, she looked a lot better than most people. Even if Emperor Wu wasn't a medicine refiner, he could still tell from the Empress Dowager's complexion that she was doing very well. Feng Wu checked the Empress Dowager's pulse and nodded at Emperor Wu. Her Majesty is fine now. After the 2 breakthroughs, Her Majesty is as strong as a bull and better than most people. Ahem. Emperor Wu coughed into his fist in embarrassment and asked, Is Her Majesty really doing so well? Feng Wu nodded and said, It's true. Her Majesty has overcome her bottleneck. She's now filled with spiritual essence and couldn't be any more nourished. So, please don't worry. She then turned to leave. But Emperor Wu stopped her. Xiao Wu, he cleared his throat. Feng Wu frowned a little and had a bad feeling. She was right to feel that way. Before Emperor Wu could say anything, Jun Linyuan took her hand and led her toward the door. Emperor Wu's face darkened. Frowning, he said, Xiao Wu, do you want to work for the Empire? His tone was very calm, But the meaning behind the question was more than a lot of people would be able to handle. Jun Linyuan was still leading Feng Wu away, without looking back. But Emperor Wu gave a silent order. Immediately, for secret guards dressed in black came out of nowhere and blocked Jun Linyuan's way. The crown prince's face turned livid. Seeing that Jun Linyuan was ready to fight, Feng Wu involuntarily grabbed his hand. She then shook her head at him. Jun Linyuan would never let anyone stop him, but Feng Wu was probably the only exception. His right fist unclenched when Feng Wu held his hand, and the tension in it immediately disappeared. Emperor Wu's authoritative voice came from behind them. Feng Wu, are you going to work for the Empire or not? If his attitude could be considered mild the first time, when he asked again, a slight anger could already be detected in his tone. There was also something threatening contained in that question. Feng Wu still held Emperor Wu in awe and veneration. It wasn't just because he was a cautious emperor. More importantly, his capability was unfathomable. Jun Linyuan could afford to act willful with his father, but she wasn't strong enough to do that yet. Turning around, Feng Wu looked calmly at Emperor Wu. Your Majesty, what do you mean? Emperor Wu smiled. I see that you're a great cook. How would you like to sell that recipe to the royal family? So, they indeed wanted a recipe now. Feng Wu smiled a little and said, Your Majesty, are you trying to purchase the recipe for the roast fish for me? Emperor Wu narrowed his eyes. From what I can see, even if we have your recipe, no one else will be able to make the fish like you do. Am I right? Feng Wu only smiled. Emperor Wu grimaced inwardly. Jun Linyuan had picked a girl as difficult as himself. Chapter 1534, Untitled. Chapter 1534, Untitled. One unruly Jun Linyuan was enough for him. He couldn't take yet another person challenging his authority as the emperor. Emperor Wu said directly, starting from tomorrow, you'll be in charge of Her Majesty's and my meals. Feng Wu narrowed her eyes. Your Majesty. Emperor Wu waved his hand. I made up my mind. Are you going to defy me now? Emperor Wu's tone was so authoritative when he asked the question that the entire tent was filled with an oppressive energy. Feng Wu might have made rapid progress in her cultivation, but she still hadn't cultivated long enough to withstand Emperor Wu's power. When the emperor lost his temper, a lot of people could die. At Emperor Wu's rage, the ground within a 5 kilometers radius began to shake, along with the trees and flowers that grew on it. The anger was obviously directed at Feng Wu. Standing in front of Emperor Wu, Feng Wu was under an incredible amount of pressure. The energy coming off him felt like a mountain on her shoulders. Feng Wu immediately froze, and her head went blank. The excruciating pain made her tremble uncontrollably. She thought she was going to die. The next second, someone stood in front of her and shielded her from all the pressure. Jun Linyuan. Although there was no wind, his robe still flapped in a non-existent breeze. Frost seemed to cover his dark, straight eyebrows, making him look unapproachable and terrifying. The power directed at Feng Wu fell upon Jun Linyuan instead. Emperor Wu frowned, and his eyes seemed to explode with flames. Jun Linyuan, he bellowed. Not only did the crown prince ignore his father, he even bounced the pressure back at Emperor Wu. If Emperor Wu had been weaker than Jun Linyuan, he would have been devoured by his own power. His eyes widened as he stared at Jun Linyuan in disbelief. You defiant son, how dare you? Of course Emperor Wu wasn't weaker than Jun Linyuan, and he wouldn't get hurt from his own power, but he was angry that his son actually tried to hurt him. To the boy, his father, an emperor wasn't even as important as a teenage girl. However, no matter how furious Emperor Wu was, Jun Linyuan kept his silence, as usual, and let the energy continuously charge at Emperor Wu. Fine, fine. Emperor Wu was so angry that he almost lost his mind. With the stupid Jun Wuxia and the defiant Jun Linyuan, Emperor Wu was filled with rage. He struck out after those words. Whoosh! After a loud noise, Emperor Wu charged at Jun Linyuan. I'm going to teach you a lesson today. Emperor Wu was relentless. The moment he rushed toward Jun Linyuan, the teenager pushed Feng Wu to the side and said solemnly, "Stay safe." Feng Wu nodded. "You too." Jun Linyuan's eyes flickered, and he didn't look so indifferent anymore. Was she worried about him? The possibility filled him with joy. Emperor Wu's fist arrived at that moment. Seeing the smile on Jun Linyuan's face, Emperor Wu almost lost his mind. What an unruly son. How could he smile at a moment like this? Chapter 1535, The Strike 1. Chapter 1535, The Strike 1. Emperor Wu didn't expect to see Jun Linyuan smile, and he almost fainted with rage. "You defiant boy," he bellowed, then pushed off of the ground with his toes and lashed out with his sword. Feng Wu had already moved to the side, and all of Emperor Wu's rage was directed at Jun Linyuan. But she could still sense the energy coming off Emperor Wu's sword, which froze the air and shattered it into tiny pieces that looked like ice shards. How terrifying that strength was! The cold wind froze Feng Wu to the bone. She followed Emperor Wu's sword and let her gaze land on Jun Linyuan. She had always known that Jun Linyuan was extremely talented and very advanced in his cultivation, but he still needed time to reach his full potential. Would he be able to withstand Emperor Wu's strike? Feng Wu narrowed her eyes and didn't realize that she was concerned about Jun Linyuan. Despite the murderous energy coming at him, Jun Linyuan stood his ground without so much as moving a muscle. Emperor Wu was holding the Emperor's sword. It was a sword blessed by God and nature. With his rage, the energy coming off, it was lethal enough to kill. Would Jun Linyuan be able to fend it off? Feng Wu had thought that she was a calm person and that she couldn't care less about Jun Linyuan's safety. However, when the sword struck at Jun Linyuan, Feng Wu's heart was beating so fast that it threatened to jump out of her mouth. She even forgot to breathe. "Jun Linyuan, watch out!" Pressing a hand to her chest, Feng Wu cried out. All of Jun Linyuan's attention was focused on the battle. He didn't turn his head, nor did he make a sound, but he nodded. He wouldn't have reacted to anyone else at a moment like this, but it was Feng Wu, and to him, she was more important than anything. Seeing Jun Linyuan's reaction, Emperor Wu was astonished. Because only masters like Jun Linyuan and him truly understood how dangerous it was to be distracted in a battle like this. But Jun Linyuan, that brat, how could he answer her at a time like this? It was like he had a death wish. Emperor Wu threw a dirty look at Feng Wu. It was malicious and relentless. There was even something murderous about it. But at that moment, Jun Linyuan started moving. He drew out Sky Destroyer from behind his back. Clang! The two swords met in midair. Instantly, the impact made a loud metallic sound, sending sparks everywhere. A shockwave spread out from the two swords. Rumble! Bang! Spiritual essence exploded. The tent was made from top-quality material that contained explosion-proof features of the highest grade. But at the impact, pop, pop, the Empress Dowager's tent fell to pieces in front of their eyes. The cloth fell to the ground like falling leaves, and all the furniture broke into tiny pieces. Even the ground was covered with web-like cracks. Was the impact only confined to this tent? Of course not. The tent was at the center of the collision, but the impact spread out in all directions. Hence, all hell broke loose in the campsite. Chapter 1536, The Strike 2. Chapter 1536, The Strike 2. What's going on? What's going on? Are we being attacked? Are we? It's Her Majesty's tent. Oh my God. All the influential families that had accompanied Emperor Wu here panicked and looked very anxious. But what they saw when they rushed over was countless Imperial guards had surrounded the Empress Dowager's tent. With their solemn expressions and the murderous look in their eyes, the atmosphere felt very tense. Master Dugu and Master Zhua arrived first, followed by Lord Mu and the others. If the atmosphere had already frightened them when they saw the damaged tent, they almost fainted. That was because their emperor was holding his emperor's sword. Opposite him, the crown prince was holding his sky destroyer. They stood there, facing each other. The two of them were at loggerheads, and a battle could break out at any moment. No, it wasn't going to break out. It was already happening. That frightening strike was part of their confrontation. OMG. Holy crap. This is crazy. I can't believe it. His Majesty and His Royal Highness are fighting. How? What was the reason behind this fight between the Emperor and the Crown Prince? It could be as small as a quarrel between the father and son, but it could also be as severe as a coup to depose the Emperor. Immediately, everyone gave Jun Linyuan complicated looks, and they all forgot to speak. To them, Jun Linyuan was indeed unfathomably capable, and no one was as suitable a candidate for future emperor as he was. But he was only an emperor-to-be. How could he draw his sword against his father? Had he lost his mind? Was the Junwu Empire going to fall into chaos? Many senior officials who had remained neutral were filled with sorrow and started worrying about the empire. Those who supported Jun Linyuan, such as the head of the pavilion of the Imperial Library, were worried sick. Sweat trickled down the man's forehead. People like Master Dugu and Master Zhua, who opposed Jun Linyuan, were thrilled and could hardly contain their excitement. Both Emperor Wu and Jun Linyuan were furious. Energy filled their swords. The air seemed to freeze again. Everyone was affected by the tension in the air. A furious emperor and an equally angry crown prince. It was as if one wrong move and the world would collapse. Everyone's hearts were about to jump out of their throats. Where's Her Majesty, the Empress Dowager? Yuan Xian, the head of the pavilion of the Imperial Library, walked back and forth with trembling fists. That's right. Where's Her Majesty? Right now, only Her Majesty can stop this fight. But Her Majesty is still unconscious. The chief steward was so anxious that he thought he was going to have a heart attack. As a steadfast supporter of Jun Linyuan, the chief steward was obviously on the crown prince's side. He of all people would like to see the Empress Dowager show up now to save the day. But the Empress Dowager had been so weak even before she made 2 breakthroughs because of Feng Wu's fish. She had been stretched so thin by everything, so no matter how loud it was outside, she was still fast asleep. The chief steward was extremely concerned as he looked at the Empress Dowager, who was sound asleep. Your Majesty, please wake up. Otherwise, the world may have changed the next time you open your eyes. Chapter 1537, The Strike 3. Chapter 1537, The Strike 3. The chief steward wasn't the only one who thought that way. Everyone stood on tiptoe and craned their necks, hoping that the Empress Dowager would show up out of the blue, save the day, and end this terrifying confrontation. But what the chief steward told them only made them despair. Her Majesty is still unconscious. What do we do now? What are we going to do? Who else can stop this fight? This is a disaster. Oh God, the Empire? What's going to happen now? Meanwhile, Emperor Wu was glaring at Jun Linyuan with eyes that could spit fire. Of course, he knew that everyone was watching. Because of that, he felt utterly ashamed. It was already humiliating to fight his son in public, but the brat wouldn't back off and acted so stubborn. Emperor Wu was furious. Even if he wanted to stop, he still needed an excuse. But with the Empress Dowager unconscious and Empress Dugu hiding away, none of the officials dared to move any closer. No one was there to provide Emperor Wu with a proper excuse. He glowered at Jun Linyuan and pointed his sword at him. You brat, are you going to keep doing this? It was a very obvious hint. All the brat needed to do was admit his fault and back off. That way this could end. But Jun Linyuan was as dauntless as ever. Of course, he said without hesitation. Emperor Wu almost had a heart attack. What a defiant son. With everyone watching, he would lose all his authority as an emperor if he couldn't keep his son under control. Emperor Wu was forced to keep going. Fine, If you really have a death wish, I'll give that to you. Emperor Wu pointed at Jun Linyuan with his emperor's sword, and spiritual essence instantly gathered around him. Immediately, all the spiritual essence around him rushed toward him until it was absorbed by the sword. The same thing happened to Jun Linyuan as well. Murderous intent filled the air. The battle felt like a sword hanging over everyone's head, which could fall at any moment. Your Majesty, please don't. Yuan Xian, the head of the pavilion of the Imperial Library, knelt down first and pounded his forehead on the ground as he cried, trying to persuade the emperor and the crown prince. Yuan Xian was an influential court official. He was already advanced in his years and a respected figure. Apart from Grand Secretary Fong, he was almost the most highly ranked civil official. Therefore, his pleading was very significant. Behind him, all the other officials and their family members knelt down as well. Your Majesty, please forgive His Royal Highness. Your Majesty, His Royal Highness is still young. Your Majesty, you're much more magnanimous than this. Your Majesty, everyone begged Emperor Wu to stop. Only then did Emperor Wu feel better. But before he could end the confrontation, something Master Dugu said made him flare up again. Master Dugu said, Your Royal Highness, you're His Majesty's subject. How can you point your sword at the Emperor? Are you trying to take the throne by force? Immediately, a hush fell over the crowd. It was so quiet that they could hear the sound of falling leaves. Everyone had been trying to look past that and didn't dare bring it up, but Master Dugu had other plans. What a schemer. Emperor Wu felt a throbbing pain in his chest. This brat, did he really want to usurp the throne? Chapter 1538, Center of Attention, 1. Chapter 1538, Center of Attention, 1. To an emperor, nothing was as important as the absolute power of his throne. You brat, is that what you're planning? Emperor Wu was furious. There was endless rage and sorrow in his eyes. Yuan Xian and the others looked at Jun Linyuan in terror. My dear crown prince, in a moment like this, please just back off. Say something nice, or there really is going to be a disaster. But Jun Linyuan was never the type to play nice. He snorted and said impatiently, Do you want to fight or not? That sentence almost gave Emperor Wu a heart attack. What defiance, son! The others were filled with despair when they heard what Jun Linyuan said, and were convinced that this empire was doomed. Fine, fine. Emperor Wu was genuinely angry now. If he had considered making an excuse to stop this fight before, after Jun Linyuan challenged his authority over and over again, he was filled with rage. Endless energy rushed out of the Emperor's sword like a never-ending thunderclap. Dark clouds gathered in the sky overhead. Those kneeling on the ground felt that even their souls were trembling. Shit, they all had an ominous feeling. The Emperor activated his killing stance, and Jun Linyuan activated his as well. The two men were fighting with their lives. Yuan Xian was worried sick. It was a duel now. Even if no one died in the end, they would still be severely injured. More importantly, this would damage their relationship. Feng Wu was equally shocked. It wouldn't be too bad if Emperor Wu ended up injuring Jun Linyuan, but if it was the other way round and in front of all these people, she couldn't imagine what would happen then. Moreover, she was the cause of everything. Stop! When the two men were ready to strike, Feng Wu ran onto the battlefield and stood between them. Emperor Wu's strike was already headed for her. Everyone's eyes widened as they stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. To them, Feng Wu seemed to have just lost her mind. Oh God, this is crazy. Does she have a death wish? She's doomed. His Majesty's strike will crush her. How stupid is she? That's such a meaningless way to die. No, we don't understand. Feng Wu is doing that because she thinks she can stop this fight. Haha, Feng Wu. Stop this fight? How can she do that when a lot of influential officials weren't able to? How naive. That's right. And now, she's about to pay for her naivete. A short distance away, in a dark corner, a pair of glinting, malicious eyes stared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu, there I was thinking how awesome you are, but is that all you can do? How am I going to take my revenge when you're dead? That's okay. You may be dead, but there's still your family. Feng Xiaoqi. Duan Chaoga. So just die, and you'll soon be joined by those you wanted to protect. In the dark corner, Jun Wuxia smirked. Chapter 1539, Center of Attention, 2. Chapter 1539, Center of Attention, 2. Everyone in the crowd was convinced that Feng Wu was going to die. They looked at her the way one would look at a dead person, but it never occurred to them that she could be so blessed. Frost seemed to cover Jun Lingyuan's handsome face. He had never looked so panicked before. Was the crown prince even capable of that feeling? Before the others had time to react, he had already dashed forward like a streak of lightning. He moved so fast that he left afterimages in the air. Rumble, clang. The moment Jun Linyuan caught Feng Wu by her thin waist to remove her from the spot, the Emperor's sword pierced her heart, and the blade went through her before it pierced Jun Linyuan's chest. Just like that, the sword went through both Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan, pinning them together. OMG, the crowd almost fainted. They covered their mouths with both hands and almost cried out in astonishment. Holy shit! Why, Your Majesty! His Royal Highness. SSSST, that was... No one expected that Jun Linyuan would rush over to save Feng Wu at that critical moment. And even fewer people expected to see him injured. Because everyone was under the impression that Jun Linyuan would never lose. He was supposed to be invincible and omnipotent. So how could anyone injure him? But had Jun Linyuan and Feng Wu really been injured? Wait, look, His Royal Highness seems to be disappearing. Someone cried out. Hearing that, the other people all realized something incredible. It was true. The crown prince who had been pierced by the Emperor's sword seemed to be disappearing in midair. Not only him, but even Feng Wu faded away as well. The smile froze on Jun Wuxia's face. What's going on? Is Feng Wu not dead? She was flustered and had a bad feeling. Just then, someone cried out, Look, His Royal Highness is there. They followed the person's finger and felt greatly relieved. Up in the air, their crown prince was holding Feng Wu by the waist. The lower hems of their clothes flapped and tangled together in the wind as they slowly landed. Only then did the others realize that the sword had only pierced Jun Linyuan's afterimage. He had simply moved too fast, and his actual form had only just landed. As the crown prince landed with Feng Wu, the Emperor's sword flew through the air to hit a cliff in the distance. Rumble. The impact shook heaven and earth. As everyone watched, the cliff that towered into the clouds crumbled and collapsed like a pile of sand. It used to be a mountain, but it only took the sword a split second to destroy it completely. What kind of power was that? Imagine what would happen if it had struck a person. It would be so horrible. Feng Wu had yet to recover from a shock. Emperor Wu had regretted it as soon as he made that strike. He gradually came back to his senses and calmed down. Seeing the way Jun Linyuan wrapped his arms around Feng Wu in a protective way, Emperor Wu didn't know what to say. Chapter 1540, Center of Attention, 3. Chapter 1540, Center of Attention, 3. With Emperor Wu remaining silent and the Empress Dowager absent, no one else dared to speak. Hence, an awkward silence filled the air. Looking around, Feng Wu saw the malicious look in Master Dugu's eyes, and her stomach lurched. She couldn't let Master Dugu drive a wedge between the father and son again. Emperor Wu was all about saving face, and Jun Linyuan was dauntless. Being alienated from his father wouldn't do Jun Linyuan any good. Taking Jun Linyuan's hand, Feng Wu said tentatively, Didn't you say that we could eat after you and His Majesty compare notes? Now that it's done, can we go now? Compare notes. Everyone stared at Emperor Wu and Jun Linyuan in amazement. So, what happened between them was only a friendly exchange of blows and not a life-and-death duel. Even Emperor Wu was surprised. He was amazed by Feng Wu because she had resolved the conflict as effortlessly as that, and had even offered him the perfect excuse. Master Dugu stared at Feng Wu with piercing eyes. That damn girl. You should never have given her the chance to speak. By defining the fight as a friendly competition, she had easily resolved the situation. Since it wasn't a confrontation between the father and son, an attempt to usurp the throne was no longer a possibility. But what Master Dugu didn't know was that Feng Wu was only getting started. Holding Jun Lin Yuan's hand, Feng Wu said gingerly, "You're still so young and have only cultivated for a few years, so it's only natural that you lose to His Majesty. You can always work harder in the future." Master Dugu was already staring at Feng Wu. When he heard those words, he opened his eyes so wide that his eyeballs almost fell out. Not only did she resolve the situation, she managed to offer Emperor Wu such a great excuse. Moreover, she laid a foundation for a potential exchange between the father and son in the future. Feng Wu was amazing. Just when everyone else thought that she was going to say something even more unexpected, Feng Wu looked up at Jun Lin Yuan with her clear doe eyes. She then moved closer and whispered in his ear, "Jun Lin Yuan, I'm hungry." She put his hand on her flat stomach. Gurgle. Her stomach growled right at that moment. In the distance, no one could tell what Feng Wu said to Jun Lin Yuan. All they saw was her putting his hand on her belly. Everyone's faces darkened. It was especially the case with those who despised Feng Wu, and their eyes glinted coldly. They couldn't believe it. How could Feng Wu still try to seduce the crown prince in a moment like this? The crown prince and his father were still at loggerheads, so of course he wouldn't listen to her. But to their surprise, Jun Lin Yuan only glanced at Feng Wu before he took her hand and calmly walked away. All the others saw was his straight back. Well, that was... The rest of the crowd felt like fainting. They couldn't believe their eyes. Feng Wu just walked away with His Royal Highness like that. No, that's not possible. I don't buy it. Feng Wu can't have such influence. The confrontation had been between the Emperor and the Crown Prince, the two most influential figures in the Empire. How could a girl like Feng Wu change anything? Chapter 1541, Center of Attention, 4. Chapter 1541, Center of Attention, 4. Mrs. Wu had the biggest frown on her face. She believed that her Zhuoqing Luan was the future wife of the Crown Prince. Who the hell did that Feng Wu think she was? Hearing everyone else's exclamations, Mrs. Wu felt even worse. Seeing her reaction, Mrs. Dugu couldn't help but say, "I think His Royal Highness himself wanted to leave in the first place, and what Feng Wu said only gave him a good excuse. That's why it seemed like she was leading His Royal Highness away." Everyone exclaimed with surprise when they heard that explanation. "You have a point. That was indeed what happened. You're right. That should be the case." No one wanted to admit Feng Wu's actual influence, so they accepted Mrs. Dugu's explanation right away. However, some people were smarter than they were. Emperor Wu's eyes glinted coldly as he watched Jun Lin Yuan and Feng Wu leave. Everyone thought that he was staring at Jun Lin Yuan, but Emperor Wu was actually staring at Feng Wu. Feng Wu. Emperor Wu narrowed his eyes. Before, Empress Dugu told him that a master oracle had predicted that Feng Wu was capable of turning the world upside down, but the emperor hadn't believed it at the time. Now, however, it seemed that the master could be right. Turn the world upside down? Emperor Wu wondered if that referred to his empire, and he looked alarmed. Little did Feng Wu know that by temporarily resolving the issue between Emperor Wu and Jun Lin Yuan and giving Emperor Wu an excuse, she had successfully put the emperor on guard. Maybe she would have thought twice if she knew this was going to happen. Jun Lin Yuan quickly led Feng Wu away. With his long legs and large strides, Feng Wu had to try to catch up with him. Just then, ding, she heard a pleasant sound in her head. The 6th trial has been completed. That voice made Feng Wu so relieved that she wanted to jump around. Yeah, she had finally finished this task. Her 18 days working as Jun Lin Yuan's maid were finally over. Oh God, Feng Wu was so excited that she wanted to run around and laugh out loud. Ha ha ha. She finally wasn't a maid anymore. Talk about freedom. She finally wasn't under Jun Linyuan's control. Stop fidgeting. Jun Linyuan had no idea why the girl was so excited. Even her hand was trembling in his. But Feng Wu was as happy as a bird out of its cage. Let go of me, she prompted Jun Linyuan. The crown prince frowned a little, and his jaw tightened. It was obvious that he was unhappy. Seeing that Jun Linyuan wouldn't move, Feng Wu was a little flustered, and she said impatiently, "Let go of me, Jun Linyuan, now." But he only held her hand tighter. Moreover, Feng Wu could sense his temper rising. Jun Linyuan was sulking. Feng Wu looked at him in bewilderment. Why was he angry again? Could it be? Feng Wu asked tentatively, "Hey, Jun Linyuan, are you angry because I said that you lost?" The crown prince's face darkened, and he didn't want to talk to Feng Wu. The more she thought about it, the more confident she was in her guess. So Feng Wu said grumpily, "Hey, Jun Linyuan, can't you see that I said those things to help you?" Chapter 1542, Ridiculous Seventh Trial 1. Chapter 1542, Ridiculous Seventh Trial 1. With what was happening, everyone would think that you and His Majesty were having a life-or-death duel. You didn't see the terrified looks on their faces. They looked like they were watching the sky fall. That was why I said that you were only comparing notes instead of having a full-on duel. Plus, I said you lost, big deal. Not only is he the emperor, he's your dad as well. Why can't you just give him an out? Jun Linyuan kept walking with his dark face and wouldn't talk to Feng Wu. Feng Wu grumbled, "If you hadn't saved me earlier, I would never have bothered to act as the go-between. What a waste of my kindness." Jun Linyuan seemed a little appeased, but his jaw was still locked tight, and he remained silent. He decided that he would forgive the girl who wouldn't let him hold her hand if she just said one more nice thing, but at that critical moment, Feng Wu heard another notification in her head, which made her jump. The system spoke again. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. "Host, please be aware, you're about to receive the seventh trial. You're about to receive the seventh trial." Feng Wu's heart sped up. What did the system want? From what Feng Wu could recall, the system had never done this before when it released a new trial. 3 seconds later, the actual task was announced. For the seventh trial, the host has to provoke Jun Linyuan until his rage is at maximum level. Provoke Jun Linyuan until his rage is at maximum level. You have until the end of the winter hunt. The voice vanished after those words. It had probably realized how ridiculous the task was. What? Feng Wu was dumbfounded when she heard the announcement and even forgot to move. The fairy flinched and didn't dare to come out to face Feng Wu in a moment like this. However, Feng Wu had already sensed her and was glaring at her in her head. "Come over here." She beckoned the fairy over. The fairy cringed and slowly moved closer. Feng Wu was angry, but more than anything, she felt helpless. Resting her hands on her waist, she rolled her eyes before turning her gaze on the fairy. "Speak. What's that supposed to mean?" The fairy gingerly looked at Feng Wu and said, "Just like you heard." Feng Wu smirked. "And what's that supposed to mean?" Ahem, the fairy rubbed her nose. She realized that Feng Wu was serious, which was quite frightening. "You just have to make His Royal Highness angry." The fairy also realized how ridiculous that request was, which was why she was embarrassed. "Make him angry?" Feng Wu lost her temper. "Why would I do that?" The fairy shook her head, for she didn't know the answer either. Resting her hands on her waist, Feng Wu was furious. "Do you have any idea how frightening Jun Linyuan is? And you're asking me to provoke him? And it has to be full-blown?" She asked in resignation. "And please tell me, how am I going to know what that is? How do you measure his rage?" You can. The fairy nodded. Chapter 1543, Ridiculous Seventh Trial 2. Chapter 1543, Ridiculous Seventh Trial 2. patting her chest. She looked at Feng Wu with her clear, pretty eyes. I can measure it. Feng Wu looked at her in surprise. The fairy nodded again. Yes, I can. I really can. Feng Wu was dubious. Is that even measurable? The fairy said, yes. Feng Wu said, so, tell me, how would you define full-blown rage? Ahem. The fairy glanced at Feng Wu. It's when he's so mad that he's about to lose his mind. Such as Feng Wu said. Such as, he may want to strangle you. The fairy said awkwardly. Feng Wu's mouth fell open. You're joking, right? The fairy smiled bitterly. I wish I were, but that's the truth. It's what he'll want to do if he's extremely angry. Feng Wu rolled her eyes. So, you're saying I'll have to risk my life to do that? The fairy said, well. Feng Wu asked, what am I going to do then? The fairy blinked and looked innocently at Feng Wu. Feng Wu didn't say a word. Fine, you can go. She didn't know what else to say. Hearing that, the fairy immediately vanished from the spot, running so fast that it didn't suit her adorable style. Feng Wu didn't say a word. By then, Jun Linyuan had already become angry. He was holding Feng Wu's hand. Although the girl stumbled after him, she wouldn't even make a sound. Was she that reluctant to hold hands with him? The more he thought about it, the angrier Jun Linyuan became. Feng Wu returned to herself, and when she looked up at Jun Linyuan, there was something complicated in her eyes. All of a sudden, she felt rather sympathetic toward him. The system had indeed given her a hard time, giving her all sorts of impossible tasks, but at the same time, as the target of her task, Jun Linyuan had gone through quite a lot as well, and he didn't know what actually happened. At that thought, Feng Wu gave Jun Linyuan a sympathetic glance. Right now, she actually felt that they were in the same boat. His Royal Highness is 15% angry. As soon as Feng Wu turned her senses inward, she heard the fairy's melodious voice. What? Feng Wu's heart sped up. Seriously? Could the fairy evaluate how angry Jun Linyuan was so accurately? Moreover, she was only getting started, but Jun Linyuan was already 15% there. Feng Wu's eyes lit up, and she didn't find the prospect so hopeless anymore. She held Jun Linyuan's hand and sounded pleasantly surprised. Jun Linyuan, are you mad? She couldn't hold back her excitement when she said that. The Crown Prince was even angrier when he heard that. What was that supposed to mean? Why was she so happy to see him angry? His Royal Highness is 30% angry. Wow. Feng Wu almost jumped up and down on the spot. That was amazing. Jun Linyuan was so easy to provoke, and the task didn't seem difficult at all. At that thought, Feng Wu smiled at Jun Linyuan. For some unknown reason, the Crown Prince's anger dissipated as soon as he saw the way the girl smiled at him. Chapter 1544. That's awkward one. Chapter 1544. That's awkward one. You're such an impossible girl. Jun Linyuan looked up and rubbed Feng Wu's head grumpily. His Royal Highness is 10% angry. His Royal Highness is 5% angry. His Royal Highness is 3% angry. The smile froze on Feng Wu's face. How is that possible? Feng Wu stared at Jun Linyuan in disbelief. She was still waiting for Jun Linyuan to get angry, but in the end his rage disappeared just like that. Silly girl. Seeing that Feng Wu looked as dispirited as someone who had just been struck by lightning, Jun Linyuan was no longer angry. He rubbed Feng Wu's head again. His Royal Highness is 0% angry. Feng Wu. That was incredible. Feng Wu realized that Jun Linyuan was so unpredictable that she had no idea what he would do next. He was so mad at first that he was 30% there. Why did his rage disappear so suddenly? What was she supposed to do? Feng Wu felt so conflicted that she didn't know how to proceed. What's wrong? The Crown Prince raised his straight eyebrows and looked at Feng Wu in amusement. He usually looked distant and unapproachable, but now, when he looked down, she could see a faint smile in his eyes. Feng Wu looked at Jun Linyuan and thought she was seeing things. She sounded surprised when she said, Jun Linyuan, are you smiling? Ahem. With how proud Jun Linyuan was, He immediately straightened his back and looked solemnly at Feng Wu. Either your mind is wandering off or you're pulling a long face. What's going on in your head? I was thinking about you. Feng Wu shrugged. Cough. Jun Linyuan almost choked on his own spit. That was way too straightforward. However, he secretly enjoyed it and was immediately in a good mood. Poking Feng Wu in her smooth forehead, he said, "Who gave you the permission to think about me?" The Crown Prince. Feng Wu was dumbfounded. She was only trying to figure out why Jun Linyuan was no longer angry, and it wasn't what he was thinking. He had misunderstood her. But before Feng Wu could explain, Jun Linyuan crossed his hands behind his back, raised his chin, and spoke in a proud tone. "Well, since you've been good today, you have my permission to think of me a little." Feng Wu stared at Jun Linyuan in disbelief. "You have my permission." Feng Wu was so mad that she couldn't utter a word. How could anyone be so narcissistic? Jun Linyuan realized that Feng Wu wasn't following him after a few steps, so he stopped, turned around, and glanced at her. Keep up. If she was still trying to finish the 6th trial, she would have to follow him. But now, Feng Wu pouted. "No, I won't. You won't." The Crown Prince narrowed his eyes. Crossing her arms, Feng Wu said proudly, "I'm not going with you." Jun Linyuan stared at her with eyes as profound as the universe. Feng Wu snorted. "Our 18-day bet is over. Why should I still follow you around? I won't do it." Feng Wu waved at Jun Linyuan as she walked away. "I'm off. Your Royal Highness, have a great winter hunt." She didn't hear a reply, but she felt very pleased. She had been oppressed by Jun Linyuan all this time. Now that she was finally able to say no, she couldn't be any more satisfied. Chapter 1545. That's awkward too. Chapter 1545. That's awkward too. However, she only took a few steps. Something then struck her, and her stomach lurched. This wasn't right. She had been so keen on getting back at Jun Linyuan that she had forgotten something very important. She had already received the 7th trial, which still concerned Jun Linyuan, and the deadline was set for the end of the winter hunt. That was to say, she would have to stay with this lot until the hunt was over. Just then, 2 men in back walked out of a dark corner and blocked Feng Wu's way. She didn't see them until they were in front of her, and they were as silent as ghosts. They were covered in black from head to toe, so that all Feng Wu could see were their sharp, cold eyes. They blocked Feng Wu's way on both sides. She could see that both men were unbelievably capable. Were they Jun Linyuan's man? If that was the case, Feng Wu was elated. That way she could stay. It was the perfect excuse that she wouldn't have been able to come up with otherwise. But Feng Wu was also a very proud person. She turned around and glanced at Jun Linyuan. "Your Royal Highness, please don't tell me you can't bring yourself to watch me leave." From what she knew about Jun Linyuan, he wouldn't be goaded, and she was confident that he would make her stay. However, Jun Linyuan surprised her. The Crown Prince stared at the 2 men and shook his head. The 2 men disappeared instantly, as if they had never shown up. Feng Wu didn't say a word. That was really awkward. She then turned to look at Jun Linyuan, but he only put his hands behind his back and slowly walked away without so much as a glance at her. Feng Wu didn't say a word. Listening to the howling wind in the middle of the silent wilderness, Feng Wu felt chilled to the bone. She was abandoned here just like that. Had Jun Linyuan given up on her? Feng Wu felt very conflicted and smacked her head in frustration. Had it not been for the 7th trial, she would have left already. Staying here was never part of her plan, but then the 7th trial came along. Wouldn't it be so embarrassing if she turned around now? She also had her dignity to consider. Feng Wu was still hesitating over her options when she heard a very welcome voice. "Hey, little Feng Wu, what are you doing here all by yourself?" Feng Sun showed up out of the blue and studied her in bewilderment. Feng Wu's eyes lit up in pleasant surprise. Here came her excuse. "Well," Feng Wu gritted her teeth and said gingerly, "I want to go home." "Are you an idiot?" Feng Sun smacked her on the head, making her grimace. "Ouch!" Feng Wu flinched and stared at Feng Sun with her teary doe eyes. We're arriving at the senile grassland tomorrow, and you want to go home now? You have no idea what you're talking about. Go to bed now. We have a tough battle tomorrow. Feng Sun then tried to drag Feng Wu away. A tough battle? That immediately caught Feng Wu's attention. Feng Sun was confused by her question. Didn't Boss Jun tell you? Feng Wu asked. What was Jun Lin Yuan supposed to tell me? Well, Feng Sun immediately covered his mouth and pretended that he hadn't said a thing. It's nothing. Just get a good rest tonight. Chapter 1546, That's Awkward 3. Chapter 1546, That's Awkward 3. Hey, Feng Sun ran off before Feng Wu could ask any questions. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Once again, she was left alone in the cold wind, but she had a question now. From what Feng Sun said, what was the thing that Jun Lin Yuan was supposed to tell her, but hadn't? She headed back with the question in her head, and before she knew it, she had gone back to Jun Lin Yuan's tent. In the royal procession, only 3 people's tents had courtyards, and needless to say, one of them was Jun Lin Yuan. Feng Wu ran into him as soon as she walked into the yard. Their eyes met. Jun Lin Yuan's eyes were so deep and bright that they reminded her of the sky lit up at night. She felt mesmerized. Her heart sped up, and she looked away involuntarily, avoiding Jun Lin Yuan's eyes. However, Jun Lin Yuan kept staring at her with his dark, brooding eyes. His gaze was intense and meaningful. Ahem. Crossing her hands behind her back, Feng Wu straightened her back and stared at Jun Lin Yuan proudly. Feng Sun dragged me back. Her meaning was that she hadn't wanted to come back herself. The crown prince looked at her and asked, Where is he? Well, looking around, Feng Wu couldn't see Feng Sun anywhere, and she wanted to kick the guy in the butt. The crown prince smiled slightly. You dishonest girl. Feng Wu glared at him. Feng Sun really did drag me back. I didn't want to come back here. He glanced at Feng Wu and went back inside without saying another word. Feng Wu smacked her head. How embarrassing. Master, please don't forget the 7th trial. The fairy reminded her in her head. Feng Wu nodded. I know. She had indeed come back, but she despaired at the thought of the trial. She had to provoke Jun Lin Yuan until he was 100% angry. What would she have to do to make him that mad? In the light of a candle, Feng Wu sat at the table with her chin in her hands and was lost in thought. Knock, knock. There was a knock at the door. Come in. Feng Wu turned her head in the direction of the door. It was Granny Gong. She smiled at Feng Wu when she saw her. Feng Wu had already left a good impression on her. After Feng Wu saved the Empress Dowager, Granny Gong was even more fond of her, and in her mind, Feng Wu was already the future wife of the crown prince. Miss Wu, please come with me. Granny Gong took Feng Wu's hand and led her toward the door. Feng Wu was confused. Granny Gong, what's going on? Granny Gong smiled. His Royal Highness is a little hungry, so please come to the kitchen with me. You don't need to make anything complicated in the middle of the night. Some noodles will do. Are you saying I have to cook now? Feng Wu asked quietly. Granny Gong nodded. That's right. His Royal Highness loves your cooking and has gotten used to it during this trip. You're our only hope now. Feng Wu's eyes lit up. She had been playing the obedient and docile maid all along, taking care of Jun Lin Yuan's food and his daily life. If she turned him down now, what would Jun Lin Yuan do? He was bound to get angry. Of course, Feng Wu wouldn't miss such a great chance. Glancing at the camel-lit tent a short distance away, she raised her voice deliberately and said, Granny Gong, I'm so sorry, but I'm afraid I can't do that. Chapter 1547, That's Awkward 4. Chapter 1547, That's Awkward 4. What Granny Gong had considered a done deal took an unexpected turn. Miss Wu, why is that? Granny Gong frowned. His Royal Highness is 10% angry. Feng Wu heard the voice in her head before she said anything, and she was thrilled. Good. Jun Lin Yuan had heard her, and, as expected, he was angry. Because, tilting her head, Feng Wu tried to come up with a reason. His Royal Highness is mad at me at the moment. And if he knows that I'm the cook, he'll only get more upset, won't he? That's why I can't do it. She tried to sense the change in Jun Lin Yuan's mood as she spoke. However, he didn't react to her excuse at all, which made her even more conflicted. I don't buy it. Staring at Feng Wu, Granny Gong said, Miss Wu, I'm going to need something more convincing than that. Meanwhile, Feng Wu was trying to figure out what could trigger Jun Lin Yuan's anger, so she immediately came up with another excuse. Well, what if I say that I just don't want to cook? Why? Granny Gong frowned. Is it because it's so exhausting? Feng Wu said, Well, not really. I just don't want to cook for His Royal Highness anymore. Jun Lin Yuan is 20% angry. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. She seemed to have faintly detected something, but she couldn't exactly pick out what. Granny Gong frowned even harder. Miss Wu, you're joking, right? She shot a warning glance at Feng Wu as she spoke. The walls were very thin here, and the crown prince was in the room right next door. Therefore, he could hear everything Feng Wu said. But what she didn't know was that Feng Wu wanted Jun Lin Yuan to hear her. Ahem, Granny Gong, I'm serious. Feng Wu smiled bitterly. I really don't want to cook for His Royal Highness anymore. Why? Granny Gong wouldn't let it drop. Because Feng Wu racked her brain, trying to find an excuse. Because it's too much work. Granny Gong, you of all people should know what I mean. To make a meal delicious, I need to activate a formation every single time, which consumes a lot of energy. I fear I'll be drained of spiritual essence if I keep doing it. Feng Wu smiled bitterly as she tried to sense Jun Lin Yuan's reaction. With her blatant refusal, she was confident that Jun Lin Yuan would be even angrier now. But to her surprise, Jun Lin Yuan is 5% angry. Jun Lin Yuan is 1% angry. Jun Lin Yuan is no longer angry. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. What the heck? While Jun Lin Yuan was no longer angry, Feng Wu almost jumped to her feet in frustration. She had refused to cook for Jun Lin Yuan, but why did he stop feeling angry so quickly? How unpredictable could Jun Lin Yuan be? There was no way to tell what could set him off. What should she do? Miss Wu? Miss Wu? Seeing that Feng Wu was lost in thought, Granny Gong called out to her. Just then, Feng opened the door and walked out of the tent. He smiled very kindly at Feng Wu. If Miss Wu doesn't want to do it, she won't have to. From now on, you can choose what to do freely, and no one can force you. Feng smiled when he told Feng Wu that was what His Royal Highness said, word for word. Chapter 1548, Green Spring Vine 1. Chapter 1548, Green Spring Vine 1. Feng Wu was utterly surprised. What? This time, it was Feng Wu's turn to feel embarrassed. She didn't expect to be able to earn her freedom with a random excuse she had just made up. Mr. Feng, actually, before Feng Wu could explain, Feng waved at her with a smile on his face. Your health is the most important thing, Miss Wu. As long as you're happy, everything is fine. Feng Wu said, well, she was already feeling a little guilty. Actually, I like taking care of His Royal Highness, she said gingerly. That was the way she was. If someone mistreated her, she would make sure she got back at them tenfold. But she would also repay those who treated her well. Just then, Feng Wu heard the voice in her head. Jun Lin Yuan is 5% happy. What the heck? Feng Wu's eyes widened as she stared at the room next door in disbelief. She glared at the fairy in her head. I thought you were measuring his anger. Why does his happiness matter now? She asked in resignation. Moreover, he had cheered up for no reason, which made her uneasy, and she instinctively resisted the idea. Well, the fairy cringed. I want to know the truth. Stop fidgeting. Speak. Feng Wu glared at her. The fairy stammered. Well, the task is so ridiculous that I thought I should do you a little favor and try to cheer you up a little. So, I'm also evaluating his happiness for you. Feng Wu found the idea idiotic, and she glared at the fairy. You're trying to cheer me up a little? Is that your idea of cheering me up? The fairy nodded repeatedly. Feng Wu rolled her eyes. What if I want to cancel it? The fairy hesitated. Feng Wu asked, can I cancel it or not? The fairy stammered, "Well, I can't do that now." Feng Wu was so frustrated that she glared at the fairy. Frightened, the fairy burst into tears. "Young master, what do I do now?" Sob. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Fine, fine. I'll just see it as a way to monitor Jun Linyuan's emotions." Feng Wu had no choice but to accept the reality. But what would it take to infuriate Jun Linyuan? Feng Wu felt rather helpless. Just then, Granny Gong came back with a tea set. Seeing that Feng Wu was still there, she was surprised. "Miss Wu, why are you still here? I thought you would have gone to bed." Feng Wu cleared her throat. She couldn't tell her that she had forgotten about the time, because she was trying to figure out how to make Jun Linyuan angry. "Ah, I see." Granny Gong looked from Feng Wu to the shadow on the tent. Because of the candle lit up inside the tent, they could see Jun Linyuan's silhouette on the wall of the tent. Following Granny Gong's gaze, Feng Wu saw that silhouette as well. Seeing the meaningful look in Granny Gong's eyes, Feng Wu said, "Ahem, Granny Gong, please don't get the wrong idea. I'm not looking at Jun Linyuan. Please believe me." Of course, Granny Gong didn't believe a thing she said. She then stuffed the tea set into Feng Wu's hands. "The tea is ready. It's the green spring vine, His Royal Highness's favorite." "That extremely expensive green spring vine," Feng Wu exclaimed. "You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.